But the difference between the two things, Eres and Kelim and Bittel, is that one is Bittel HaMetzir, B'Metzir, Bittel HaMiti, and one is Bittel HaYesh. Right? So let me just, if you don't mind, I'm just going to read the last paragraph in Osrei Shnu on page Tuvkov Dalet.
Open the door, the door's locked.
So we spoke about like this. That even hashpah that comes from Teyu is an eifin. Remember, we spoke about an insecure type of remus. It's not a real remus; it's a false remus. So it's a remus. So when it gives in a way that nothing is teifus mokim. So make sure that there's no nana. There's no one has a noah from its type of giving, because when it gives, it's without any teifus mokim. That's what he said here. So I'm just reading the end of this paragraph. It's page Tovkov Dalet. Okay, I'm going to read it quickly. It's middle of the page. And the light of Teyu, the energy of Teyu, the Hashpah is an even of Isnasus. Remember we spoke Isnasus. It's very intense. It's so intense, it's basically about itself. It's like think of the sun just burning everything. It's not giving anybody any tvisas makim. So there's two things. First of all, the light is so intense because it's about himself. It's like a person with a blust von sich. So he's has a lot to give. He wants to give. He thinks he has a lot to give, so he just gives without any cheshbeinus of the kelim, and doesn't leave any room for anything else. So we say that even the kelim, that's why the kelim of Teyu there was no hashpah at all. That like midas daim, there's no hashpah. Lias the hashpah b'chinas hakelim u'b'chinas zeh choser k'tzas, because as we spoke, kelim is like the mashpia that is mislabish er pnimi, the kelim that when he gives he has to he something is diminished inside of him. So by Teyu, because it's choser k'tzas for sure, it doesn't give anything. Lo yashpah klal the hashpah b'chinas hakelim b'chinas zeh choser k'tzas b'chinas bittul. That requires bittul for it to choser k'tzas. For a teacher to give of time and energy to mislabish requires bittul. Teyu doesn't have at all this. The emphasis is on klal. Why? Because the aid, as we said, the aid he does give, but he gives in a way that doesn't benefit the recipient. In kelim b'klal, there's no giving. Well, by aid is b'chinas hashpah, and that's the kelim. And the aid is hashpah. Avol adrab bezel lo nenu mokim lo nosnu mokim lasfiras hacheres. So the edus of Teyu, there is giving, there is hashpah rather, there is a transmission, but adrab, it's in a way that doesn't leave any room for any sfira hacheres. So kelim b'chlal, there's no transmission because that requires a bittul because it's chasuk tzas, and the air that's no chasuk doesn't have anything, it's not missing, it's not diminishing, but since it's midas daim Teyu, even though nothing's diminished, it makes sure it gives in a way that the other does not have any hana. So it's zeh lechased and zeh leinana, basically. But he's not silent. He's elasachar. He's there, but he doesn't leave room for anything besides himself.
Tehu, Eiros the Tehu makes sense. Eiros and Tehu fit with each other.
Yeah.
But Kelim does not fit in Tehu.
But the fact that
the concept of a Keli does not fit in Tehu.
But remember,
what made him a Keli?
No, 1 second. But the Rebbe Rashab, remember, Tehu also has Eiros and Kelim. You have to remember.
That's what I'm saying. So how does
so one second.
Kelim the Tehu?
Hold on a second. In the process, in Ak there's no Kelim, as we learned. Adam Karn. In Akudim there's Eser Eiros b'Keli Achad. Okud b'Keli Achad. That's Okud. So it's a lot of energy, one Keli, so there's no Shvira either, because there's so little Kelim, there's nothing to break. Then comes Nukudim, so the Eiros become a little less than Nakudim, but now the Kelim emerge. But there's a big imbalance, and that's where there'll be Shvira Sakelim. So, B'chlal, yeah, you talk about Eres the Teyu, you don't really hear he's dissecting it. What really happens before the Shvira? So what is the state of being right before the breaking?
Yeah, I'm just saying,
Obviously
what
not in time.
What defined Kalim the Teyu?
Hold on,
as a
but
Kalim?
that's what the Rebbe Rashab is saying. So the Eres of Teyu is clear. The Eres of Teyu, Eres of Hashpah. But there's Kalim also. So he defined the difference between Eres and Kalim. That's the whole adichus of Er Makif and Er Pnimi. So let's put it this way. In Teyu there's Eres Makifim and Eres Pnimim. The thing that went into the Kalim before the breaking. So he's explaining here. Remember, think of when you talk about Eres and Kalim in the context of a Welt, everything, both Eres and Kalim are ultimately being mashpia to the next level. You understand? So when you break it into specifics, the Eir is mamshich more like a, let's say in Tikkun. The Eir is bringing more elikus. The Kalim is more islapshus. Let's not talk about Teyu from. Let's talk about Tikkun and the good, where it's.
No, Tikkun is okay.
But there's two things. The Eris and Kalim both have pulas. The Eris in Atzilus, their main thing is to represent godliness, like you said, the godless alakus. The Kalim, Eris be Kalim in Tikkun, is mainly to be mashpia to the makabel. So, for example, Chesed. The Chesed Atzilus is two elements to it. It's love, kindness, but it's love like the Eibishter gives love. That's the Eris of Chesed. The Keli of Chesed is how you give Chesed in a way that the recipient can receive it in an appropriate way. In Teyu, they also have these two things, but they're both messed up. Keli and Bechal don't care to give.
What makes it a Keli? What makes it a Keli?
No, the Keli is because it's what he's saying, because it's Tefus, the
Not
Eir.
because of Hashpah.
Not because of Hashpah.
How's it Tefus? It was.
That it's Er Pnimi. It's Chesed. It's not Gvura. In that sense. I mean, he didn't spell it out. But I would say it's Chesed, not Gvura. Eir, you could say Eir is more Pshittis. In fact, in Teyu you have Chesed, Gvura, you have Chochm, Bina, Das, you have everything.
Up until Midas, I think you have everything.
No, you have Midas also. No, the Midas, the Shvira, and the Mechem is no Shvira. You have all the Midas. You have everything. You have Esser Shviras, you have Esser Eris, and Esser Kalim.
Kalim very passive.
Look, I'm only saying, I'm going a little further than he says it. He doesn't spell it out specifically. You're asking basically a question, what is the role of Kalim to Teyu? The only thing that I can tell you is what he said was the Kalim of Teyu are basically represent the concept of the way they should be, would be Hashpah, but in Teyu there's no Hashpah.
He said there's two parts to Kalim. There's one is Tefus, the Eir, the other one is Mashpia to the Makabel.
He said that?
Yeah. And maybe he said it later.
Yeah.
Okay,
Sure.
fine.
Holding it of
Okay,
Kalim.
I think I could only understand it in contrast to Tikkun. Because Taka doesn't work in Teyu. The bottom line doesn't work. That's why it breaks.
They're valves, but very weak valves.
You could say it like that, right. Let's put it this way. Remember, it's not in time, but it's two stages. One stage is Teyu, so to speak, before the Shvira, and one is after the Shvira. But it's going to break. We know it's going to be a Shvira Sakem because it can't work. So there's a big mess in Teyu. There's just it's a chaotic. It's Teyu. It's chaotic. So I would only say the contrast is you have to think of it conceptually. Teyu has the concept of Kalim, but the Kalim are not doing what they're supposed to be doing.
Yeah,
That's the bottom line.
What does it mean to have the concept?
The concept is that everything exists in Tikkun has to exist in Teyu, except it's in a distorted state. That's how I understand it. Okay. What's the concept of Kalim, for example, in Lifnei Tzimtzum? There's no Kalim. The Keiach, the Shimur, is the Sheresh Kalim. It means it's the beginnings of a makabel, the idea of a makabel. However, in the earlier stages, let's talk Lifnei Tzimtzum. Lifnei Tzimtzum says there's Eir HaGvul and Eir HaBli Gvul. The Eir HaBli Gvul will become the root of Eir, and the Eir HaGvul will become the root of Kalim. At that point, there's nothing because it's all so submerged in the infinity of Elikus that it's only a potential state. So what's the purpose of it? The purpose of it is that one day, once the light will be diminished. So Teyu is also, the Kalim are let's call it immature. They're not developed yet. That's really how you have to see it. It's undeveloped Kalim. So they're there, so they're going to, and remember these Kalim when they break, fall in Tasiyah, and when we make Birurim of Tikkun, we're finding Kalim of Teyu. We're correcting Teyu. We're not just, it's not a new, Tikkun's not just a new world, it's repairing broken Kalim. The fact that you can find a Nitzuz Gedusha lost somewhere, with the Echad Golul Barbaria, it's a Jew here or a Jew there, or Nitzuz Gedusha in this part of the world, in that part of the world, that's a result of the Kalim that weren't able to function properly. So that's how I would really see it. I think it's like two the two states of mashpia and makabel, but they don't have any relationship with each other. So the makabel part, mashpia lefiyarach the makabel, the b'chlal doesn't mashpia because it's chosuk ksas. Mashpia mitzad atzmei eir is mashpia, but only in a way that nothing else is tefus makom. So it's one mess. So the kelim break. I mean, he doesn't really explain like the dynamic how the shviras kelim happened. He doesn't mention it, but it's clear. Sdom got destroyed because it cannot function. Ultimately, you cannot have a world where there's no mashpia and makabel. That's why there's no give and take. It has to self-destruct. I mean, think of it now, the economy today. If you start having those that have and the have-nots, and they have no connection, it has to somewhere self-destruct. There you go.
That's the
So the Rebbe Rashab predicted Occupy Wall Street right here. There you go. Okay. So let's.
How many Caleb broke in Shviras HaKelim?
Yeah. So it goes like if it nimtze.
No, we don't even want them.
Okay, we said that. Rabbi Eres B'chinas Hashpah.
Fix the Caleb of Taylor. I think we don't even want them. I think we just combine the Ors of Taylor with Taylor.
No. First, if you only read a sikha and you don't read all the maimorim that come before the sikha, you can get that impression. That's not the pshat. That's not the pshat. It means there's two things. First of all, when you the Arizal says it in the question, the famous question, why human beings who are higher than Dem Tzemei Chai need to depend on other mineral, vegetable, and animal for their sustenance. We're higher. Why do we have to go lower? The answer is this classic answer, because the Nitzutzim of Teyu are in the Dem Tzemei Chai. They fell lower. So we need that to sustain us. So two things happen when you eat a piece of food, let's say. One is you repair the keli that broke, because here it's lost in that food that will maybe never be elevated. And you make a bracha and you do what you have to do with it, and you use the energy for constructive purposes. So in a way you fix the keli of that part, but also you get energy from it, and it gives you strength, and you're being fed by Eidos Deteo, which is stronger than the Eidos that Adam has on his own. I'm not talking about now Neshama Chelik Elikal Mamash. We're talking about as it comes down in the Ilamus. So the bottom line is that when the Rebbe is saying Eidos Merubim B'Kelim the Tikkun, saying that you want to have that intensity that Tikkun doesn't have initially, and you get it through that basically that towards B'Keach Sher, that the power that your Nefesh Habamis gives you has more intensity than the Nefesh Elokiz gives. That comes from Tayu. But there's at the same time also the repair of the Tikkun. I mean, you want to put it this way, when the Rebbe said that we finished being Mevarad in the Tzutzis, and now all we need is the Gili of it, you can say maybe that the Kalim were fixed, and now all we need is the Gili and have the Eidos Merubim and Kalim. Yeah, but it still needs the Gili.
Wouldn't be going around, trying to prepare.
Well, the Bir in the Tzutzis really is the war, whether there's a battle, there's a war, but it's a whole other discussion. You could have, for example, the Rebbe writes about, you could have a state where we could have finished all the Birurim, but still, it still has to be manifest in our consciousness, and you have to be aware of it. We could all be technically asleep. You could still have a Golus mentality, even though, in a way, Golus is ended in a certain sense. But anyway, that's another discussion. So, fine. So according to this, we understand that the two things that we explained earlier, this is critical because this is what Tikkun repairs. So two things, bottom line is. One is that Torah doesn't give room for one another. There's no tolerance. There's no space for anything else. And the second is that they're not makabel and not mashpia one to another. Mitzad the Eiris, mitzad its intense Eir, so stuck in, there's no room for anything else. See, that's Eir. Kalim doesn't have the concept of Mesinas Malkus, because Kalim is makabel, the Torah.
He's not the one that gives Yenem and Sinas Malkim. Oir is the one that gives.
Mitzad the Eir is the Torah. And when they don't receive, when there's no symbiosis, there's no give and take, that's mitzad the Kalim.
You have a concept of Ashpah.
Yeah, but
It's not just Eidos was Git, it's also Kalim.
It was Kalim, but Chlal, there's nothing going on. Because there's that. But in Eidos, as we said, there is something going on, but it's only in the Eifel Lane, the Nesim Malcolm.
That's Nasis.
Right. So The hashpah, the transmission, is one that does not leave room for anything else. And then he's saying,
doesn't even recognize anyone.
right.
What's the difference in hashpah that an gives and hashpah that a keli gives in general? So they both have his job. They both have a job.
I said before, the Eir gives, like he says, the role of an Eir. Look, let's put it this way: if you dissected a good teacher who educates well, you see two things going on. One thing what he does with the Eir, and one thing what he does with the keli. He's able to give you a good sense of an idea that you didn't hear about before. That's for sure Eir. The chidush of a new hamshacha, a new revelation. And the second thing, he knows how to measure it to the kelim. So there's some people who are, for example, brilliant, but they can't communicate well because people don't understand. So that basically they have a lot of Eir, good Eir. I'm not talking about now Eir of Teo.
Yeah.
But they don't know how to measure to kelim. They say too much. They say in a not organized way. There's a lot of things. But the second, so basically, hashpah to the makal, you don't just need. You're not just. As I'm saying, I'm saying the Talmud is not just a keli. The teacher also has a keli. He's being malbish as edus and kelim and asius. And so that's how I think you have to see it. I think if you really want to understand, it's both the Eir and Keli in the Mashpia Gufa. Don't think here as Keli as the Makabel. In the Mashpia Gufa, there's his Eir that he's being Mamshech, and there's how he's Malbish his Eir and Kelim, which are Asius, Mishalim, how he explains it, the pace. Right. Like when it says when Moshe, the Hafsokis in the beginning of Pasha Vayikra Rashi, Hafsokis being Pasha La Pasha. That's the Eirster stopping. That's like the Kelim. Stopping here and there to be able to absorb. So there's two things, and you could in other words analyze and say this person's a great teacher, but he's missing his ability to be malbish and kelim. You can say another person is great in putting kelim, but it's felt amol the air. You don't feel, you don't feel. Sometimes when you leave a class, you want to go away, not just understanding. You also want to feel there's something more than what you heard. So, okay. Ubetikun nistaknu bezen yonim now. And in Tikkun now, it repairs these two things. V'ugamkin b'chinas ha'eres v'kelim, the Tikkun. There's also in the eres v'kelim Tikkun, the shenistakin al dei b'chinas shema ha'chodosh v'kumosh yizbar. So basically, this whole sets the stage, the two distortions in Teyu, one, that it doesn't leave room for anything, and not two, there's no mashpia makabel, there's no ashpah makabala, because there's no bittul. In Tikkun, these two things will be repaired because of the Shema Chodesh. And remember, Shema is the key operative word because Ma is the bittul that creates the interface. And that brings us back to the beginning of the Sugya. We started to understand the whole inyan of the Aleph. If you remember Aleph and Pella, the mamutza between Chachmas Timah, between Har Elikus and Elamus, you needed to understand Shema. To understand Shema, he's explaining Shemban. So basically, that's the flow. I mean, in one line.
Shema Chodesh, meaning because the Tikkun's a Chodesh?
Yeah, you're going to see. He's going to be a barichus on that. Shema Chodesh is, Shema is rooted in Ak, and there's a whole thing with the Shema Chodesh. Should I read the Kitzur already? Or no, or just go to the next?
By the way, Loshev, he summed it up nicely. He said, when you talk to each other, okay, that's Shem Tikkun. Then when you walk in the street, and you only nod to the guy, that's it. That's only Gittin Sinas Smokin. That's the Eures of Tehu. You nod, that's it. Then there is not even a nod. You walk in the street, I feel like in Das Eichel.
And I could throw in, then there's a person who nods, not because he really acknowledges you, because he needs you later. So
now that's Tehu, no? That's his nasus. No, hello. That's exactly his nasus.
Okay, I understand. No, but sometimes
you don't exist, Bichlal. I'm just nodding because...
Yeah.
That's exactly.
We're not mentioning names, so we can do whatever we wish. Okay. I'll read the kids already fast, and then we'll just read Kanak. You don't mind, by the way, because I know that du hast das one in den Yonim, as du willst fliehen weiter.
Yeah, no problem.
I know, I could read this.
If I wouldn't push them, these guys, it would still be us Dalit.
Okay, so you're Mamshul the Eris, and I'm Mamshul the Kalin. Okay?
Yeah.
Good.
And he says we know anyway the same amount, so it doesn't make a difference.
I'll tell you the truth. It's really learning some pieces here. I can learn to 50 times until you get it. It's very, very dense.
Go ahead.
I mean, especially to appreciate the
Go ahead.
Okay, so Bira Inyan di Nimal Ban B'chinas Aliyah V'Yirida. Ma ban is aliyah nerida. V'aloi asfira the teyo b'chinas ban. Lama lo yehoya b'hem in hashpaya. Since the ban is ban and ban is yerida, why don't they have hashpah? Hashpah is doch yerida. Ubavade gam bekelim the teyo hoy neitza v'kavona b'chinas hayerida. Because definitely the kelim of teyo also had the sense that the kavona is in going down to be mashpia. So the answer is going to be because of yeshus and bitl. Inyan hu deima yesh hayerida mitzad yeshus. In hashpah mitzad bitl. Hashpah comes beside the bitl. The ba'er had is a hepech tivei. The air is hepech tivei. That's why a air on its own would never go down. It's only because it feels the kavana. Al korcha chat techai. V'gam ba'kelim ima yesh b'hen teva yerida. Even though kelim on their own, their nature is yerida, yochli is rak hakabola la'atzma. But beside yeshes, you could also have a kabbalah that's only for me. That's how he compels. He only receives on his own. V'ashpoi mitzad bitl. For the kelim to continue. Yes, so this is what you meant. So in other words, the kelim of Teyu do have two things. They're receiving aid, that we know. I mean, they're receiving aid, but they don't give it any further. They don't continue. When Tikkun, when Chesed, the Keli of Chesed receives the aid of Chesed, it will ultimately be mashpiyah to the next Biyah.
Maybe that's why it explodes also in Kalim.
Right, exactly.
Filling up, and
Yeah.
it explodes.
And it is the same. Unless the Rav understands there is a kavanah eliyena, he will never teach.
Yochli is like a kabbalah atzme.
Yes.
What is
Yeah, but he teaches it, they don't understand what he's teaching. However, man, we have such a levitic example for this. We have such a live. If you know that, I'm gonna call him and tell him that because of you, I understand Ayin Beis differently. Because of him, I understand Ayin Beis. Because I never understand it. It's true.
That's called sitting in an ivory tower. That's a chayna zim to
He explained before that the Indian of
By the way, anyone that's a compulsive narcissist is this madrega. The psychological model for this tehu, Eidos the tehu, is in psychology called a compulsive narcissist. I told you last time. There's two Evan Abeichus for a compulsive narcissist. One, within 3 minutes, you're going to hear his name, even if you're talking about Lifnei Ad Tzimtzum, and say, "Where comes to Dutton?" Yeah, my grandfather this. Without him, there wouldn't have been Ad Tzimtzum or something. And the second thing is that when you disagree with this person, he doesn't listen to you and come back with. He just reframes what he said lechatchila, like a good lawyer, and maybe you'll get it with a different example. And forget it. It's like he never really hears what you said. So this is basically, I'm just giving you an example in psychology. So we have everything a model.
I think you're thinking about a particular person describing him. And then
No. This is exactly it. This is what means nishtefes mak. Not nisa makim to you means you have a conversation with a person. It doesn't even hear what you have to say. You're just a prop. You're there. I don't know why. It just needs. It just needs to be heard.
the weren't being able to do smakim, but he explained before that the union of because they had yeshus was not from the concept of Eris, nor was the concept of Kali, because the air was so strong. So then afterwards, it wasn't able to go into the Kali the whole.
I don't think he mentioned that.
What?
He doesn't mention it. I don't think he mentioned it.
Before, yes, he did.
Okay,
I'm
so.
asking if that's connected. You're talking about Satan.
Well,
Yeah.
for sure. I mean, look, the fact is, the Eirish of Teyu are going into Kalim, but they break them because they're not giving them Tefus and they're not Tefus
No,
Mokim.
I'm saying why afterwards, this first day, why they were able to be B'chinas Yesh, because the Eris was so big, it wasn't able to go into the Kalim until it came down to form into a Tzir, then it was able to be alone sustain until it came into B'chinas of Yesh, right?
Yeah.
So basically, the concept wasn't in the Kali, the problem was in the air, that the air was too much and the Kali wasn't able to handle it, and therefore it was a Makar from Yesh they weren't able to.
I think so, yeah. V'hashpoa mitzad habitl, ba'er hu bitl amiti. Okay, so ba'er hu bitl amiti, the air has real bitl. U'bekelim bitl hayesh. And the kelim is bitl hayesh. V'zeh b'chin is ban de sag. Because remember, teyu is sag. I'm sorry, v'teyu b'chin is ban de sag. Okay. V'hinei ba'kelim im shahoye b'hem teva yerida. Hu rak l'kabel atma v'lei lashpiya klal. That's in teyu. So the kelim are makabel, but they're not mashpia. Why? Because it's chosuk tzas, and they just don't have that whole bittul. Or by Eris, they do have Ashpa, Hayashpa of B'chinis Yesh, Shalei Lit Makim. Or B'tikun, opposite, B'tikun is as Makiv Nesan Makim, Shemesav Eir V'chayis, or Magbiyas HaMakabel. And Tikun, the Eir, even the Eir Makiv, which is Leichosser, in other words, it's removed from the Makabel, but it still gives room and it gives Kaychis and Chayis to the Makabel. And in Teiyu that doesn't exist. It's only give in a way that nothing else is Tefes Mokim.
This whole arichas in Teiyu.
The interesting thing.
Of
course, I just said, it sets the stage. The last two lines, he said, in Tikkun, these two elements are corrected. The element of Eidus that is not Nesan Mokim, and the element of Kalim of Mashpah and Kabal. The interesting thing I just realized is that's two things going on in Teiyu, the Shvira. It's one thing is that the Eidus will break the Kalim, but it's also the Eidus break each other. Because Chochmah doesn't give room for Bina, and Chesed doesn't give room for Gvura.
Yeah.
So it's two things happening here. The Eid and Keli, and then one Eid to the other Eid are also clashing. Nothing it's all messed up.
Because
Yes.
it's Zepach Zepach.
Well, it's because it's Yesh, and when there's a Yesh, the two Yesh, even the Eidus don't. In other words, when Chesed is being mashpia in Teiyu, there's no room for Gvura in Gandik. In Tikkun, there is. I'm not talking about even Makablim and Kalim. It's actually the other way around. It breaks from the bottom up.
Really?
The midas break. The shvira is in the break, because it says the shvira is in the midas and the meichen is only a little shvira. It's not the main
Would
shvira.
it be like, let's say, like a funnel, like if they go down each one after the other, so it's like a separate entity for itself, or?
I mean, it's not so gashmizdik.
It's not Gashmis at all.
Well, you have to look at it like this. What happens? I mean, I have to really look it up.
By the way, what you're saying makes sense. Why are you saying that? That mid is more than a meichen?
Because that's what it says. It's not my chiddush.
Further, the next us.
I think from the lower, the break is like starts from the bottom. It doesn't. No, because that's how it is. I'll tell you why. Because there is a reason why. No, because midas are always more yesh than meichen. That's first of all. It says it befeidish. I'm not saying this is not my thing. This is Kabbalah. This is specific. This is a black and white thing. The midas shvira was in the midas, and the meichen is not so much shvira.
And the next us explains that.
I think in Chachma there's no shvira at all. In Bina, abyssal. That I don't know. That I have to look up whether it all happens together and so on. This week it's an experiment. We'll figure it out for next.
Yeah, everybody's very nervous about you. Huh?
No, don't worry about it. Okay, so let's go to the next us.
No, I'm saying later explains the difference between meichen and midas.
Right.
That chochmah is many protim, so it's bendable.
Oh yeah.
Shaken midah, it's one.
Rachka kone, the kosher
exactly.
yeah.
It's one, and so the far the shvira is midas more than.
Right, because midas bechlal is more yesh.
Yeah.
Look, two bal and meichen can also clash, but it's never as strong as two bal and midas.
They hit each other, and two midas.
Yeah. No, in other words, even the Eidus the Teo, the narcissistic Eidus, that's a good one. Narcissistic Eidus that don't leave room for anything. Even it's different in Meichen than it is in Midas. But he doesn't discuss it right here. So, okay, Valpia now. This is the end of the Maimer. So it's going back to Nosei Esreish. Valpia Hanal, according to the above, Yuva Mashakos of Nosei Esreish. In the beginning of the Mari, I had a bunch of questions on this pasuk.
Yeah.
The long Maimer, very long Maimer. Wow, this is maybe the longest. Yeah. Nasi is also the longest parsha in the Torah.
What's the meaning of the Siyas Reish?
Yeah, Matzah Siyas Reish, and the whole thing with Gershon.
Why do you have a big
Why?
This we relatively understood. This was like normal. See, this the next couple of, to the end of the house.
Okay, because we're here in Elam Atikun, and some people feel we should review this, and some don't. Okay, so what do we do?
Who said, Colin, you finished what you, this is what you did?
This is the piece.
Okay. Sorry.
Here we're having a living. We're going to see here whether we're Teiyu or Tikkun.
It's not the
By the way, I want to just tell you something, with all due respect to the professor, that when I was doing a lot of research in Samachvov and also in Ayin Beis, I came to discover that these end pieces that the Rebbe Rashab added later helped tremendously to understand the Maimer itself. Because remember, the Rebbe wrote this, the Rebbe Rashab wrote it later. That means he's writing it in different ages a little, and it's always good to see from the writer the same idea. No, not the beginnings and ends.
So right, even look, the next ballet when he reintroduces the Midas Dain, right?
Right
it's
away.
so clear.
Yeah.
If we would have read it here, we would have understood right away. Mir gebrochen the Kopf, here to understand Midas Dain. In 3 lines, he said it's so clear.
Yeah, but you understand it because you read before. That's why.
Exactly.
Yeah, but no. But the point is, no, he did not. The beginnings and ends of Maimarim were all added later. The Hemshech was one long. Right from here, went straight to here.
And the way the Rebbe Rashab wrote it, we didn't understand somebody wrote it over afterwards, right?
No, I'm talking about the Rebbe Rashab himself. He wrote the whole Hemshech,
Yeah, but he read
and then he added. That's a maitik. That's another story.
Copy machine.
That's someone copied, and he edited that too sometimes. Yeah.
I heard it wasn't just a copy machine. You weren't able to understand it.
You check it and
wrote down more.
This is a fact. You don't even have to check this. There's just some things that I mentioned last time that he adds later. Not yet. I'm sure. I'm positive that I could see right away from the signal. You could see when things are like. You could see the flow. You can see also he adds a lot of the ACS and so on.
We're going back.
Ayin Beis.
I can explain, but I can't explain.
The Apia now Yuva Mashikosa.
Slaveda. Carmen, he'll be Slaveda. Yeah, for us.
I like this because
You're good, Carmen. Good.
I appreciate it.
We need the balance.
Valpiha.
All these guys, they think they understand everything.
Okay.
Carmen, I missed the days anyways.
Okay, good.
Valpiha now Yuva Mashikosa no says Reish Dihini Omer Azal. Ein Eben Mispal El Metech Kevid Reish. Person shouldn't begin to daven unless with Kevid Reish, which is like humility.
Yeah.
Literally, Kevid Reish means a heavy head, but it means that. But it means that he should humility. It means that you put your head aside, essentially. Upirish Rashi Achno v'Shiflus. Rashi says that's Achno, which means submission, and Shiflus, which is humility. The inyan of tefillah is galus hakeiches nefesh. The inyan of tefillah is the revelation of the keiches, the divine soul. Keiches nefesh. The kedem of tefillah. So tefillah is the gilui of keiches nefesh. That's a good categorization. The kedem of tefillah hanashama hi behelem. Before davening, the neshama is behelem. The Kamesha Kasuv. Chidul lechem adam asher neshama ba'ape. Chidul means pull away from, separate from a person whose neshama is still in his nostrils. Which means as soon as you're born, as soon as you're awake, the neshama came out ba'ape. So you're technically alive, but it's only ba'ape. It's not fully alive. You're just biologically alive. So your neshama is still behelem until you daven. Neshama ba'ape. The kedem atfila neshama hirak ba'ape. Dainu b'tachlis hakatnus v'helem. During sleep, it's called kista de chayusa. By the way, by sleep you're also alive, but that is not even the neshama is not fully manifest. It's like it's only. Yeah. B'tachlis hakatnus v'helem. So it means basically, if you sleep 60 nights, you're completely dead. Is that what you're saying?
No, it's not my understanding.
I'm just kidding.
In a row.
Sorry.
That's all derech how many kalim broken shores the kalim. All the same concept.
Right. I asked my father once when I was a kid. I said to him, so he told me we went to visit somebody in the hospital. He said, so when you visit someone, you take away 60th of the illness. So I said, so if he'll have 60 visitors, he's going to go home. My father said, he's been elter just the first day.
But these are talking about this very young.
60th and what's left.
Yeah, but okay, but so the neshama before.
Could you be sounding closer to the speaker, please?
Move closer. Jacket, closer.
Yeah.
So before, why'd you wait for an hour?
I could hear you, should have smelled it.
Okay, so before davening, the neshama is ba'ape. It's tachas hakatnus v'ahelem. It's the ultimate. It's still diminished and concealed. And And through davening becomes the expansion and the growth, the maturity of the neshama. In other words, it manifests inside of you. A derech exercise. By Yaakov, the ladder. That the ladder, that davening is like a ladder that stands, its legs stand on the ground and its head, and the top of the ladder reaches heaven. This is the ladder of davening. Sheyesh b'dalad shlivas. That this ladder has 4 stages, 4 rungs. Ad psuka de zimra is the first. Upsuka de zimra is the second. Ubichas krishma is the third, and krishma is the fourth. Sometimes it says differently that Shemoneh is the fourth, and it's a different category. But bottom line is, Bichas HaShachar, in other words, till Psuka de Zimra, what we say from Meidani till Heidu is 1. Heidu through Avaselim before Krishma is 2. Bichas Krishma is 3, and Shema is the 4th. And you're climbing the ladder. So the lowest, in other words, Neshama Ba'apeh starts.
The lowest level.
The lowest level is Bichas HaShachar, and then Krishma is you reach the 4th rung. She'negedal madrega sheba neshama. These are connected. These correspond to the 4 levels of the neshama.
I'm saying, like, Talmud Dim Rabbina, he says that if you don't see Krishna properly, it's not better not to say Shemoneh. It's a waste of your time. That's right. So I guess that's why it's the 4th stage.
And what happens if you don't say Shemoneh properly? So then everything
No,
works.
Krishna.
You just say that.
There's nothing to go.
I'm saying, but if you don't say anything
Says
properly,
If you don't have a film, then you're a
If
fakaf,
you
no?
don't have a chana tefillah, it's already another major problem.
So what? You're wasting
you understand what I
time
said?
on
So what
Shemoneh.
happens if people don't say anything properly? So they say the whole thing in one level. It's all.
Okay, but he's talking about 4 levels.
She'negedal.
That's why if you didn't have one, you go back. Right?
I don't know. These are connected, the 4 madregas of the neshama. U'kamaimer, like we say in the beginning, in Bichas HaShachar, neshama shenesata bi teherihi. We say 4 levels: tehera, ata barasa, ata yitzarta, ata nefachta. Then ata meshamer is bekirbi, right? So you have tehera, barasa, yitzarta, nefachta. Actually, no, you don't. That's the 4. Tehera is atzilus. Okay, he's going to say here. The ad psuka de zimra hu inyan hayda. That's shezah b'chinas nefesh. That's the first level, nefesh. Actually, it goes backwards. Okay, hayda meidani. So it's nefesh. Psuka de zimra hu is galas b'chinas haruach is pailas hamidus. Psuka de zimra is ruach, nefesh ruach neshama chaya, right? That's the midas. Obichas krishma is galas haneshama. V'hasogev is bonus belakus. And here he suddenly says, "B'shmenes magil l'sherish hamakar haneshama, v'uliyas his chabas haneshama v'lebeshes beguf im sherish hamakar haneshama." So that Esak bo v'remes b'haneshama v'lebeshes beguf. So how does that stem? The 4 things. That's okay. There's always this contradiction. Bottom line is because Krishma and Krishma are sometimes included together, and Shemoneh is the 4th level. So basically, nefesh is Bichas HaShachar, Psuka de Zimra is ruach, Bichas Krishma and Krishma is galas neshama, ruach neshama. And he doesn't say it, but Shemoneh is essentially Sheresh HaNeshama, which is Chai Yechida, or Chai. Okay. So Shemoneh brings the neshama now to its source, and it connects it back down below. So basically, the 4th level connects the neshama all the way back to nefesh. That's what happens in davening. And it elevates the neshama that's melubish, that's dressed up, manifest in the guf. The neshama melubish is beguf, the yosef b'chinis shabbat tfisa ben nefesh abam is agam sheyesh b'mayla shezah b'chinis eir pnimi. Now the neshama, as it goes into the guf, since it's mislapsha, since it's actually manifests in a real way in the nefesh abam is like it is b'kelim. So even though it has the mile of eir pnimi, shagam b'chinis gili. So he's basically explaining that the levels of davening. So even though the neshama beguf has a lot of miles because it's pnimi and it's doing a tikkun, it's refining and it's repairing and refining the nefesh habamis. Makol makom yachli is b'zeh hisalmus yichida. Hisalmus yiseda. I'm sorry. But nevertheless, this can be still a hisalmus, a very intense concealment. Mitzad nefesh habamis. So komei beheder aveda, like we see that when someone is lacking aveda, hari nefesh habamis ma'ilo master meid ala keiches the nefesh alakis. So even though the first 3 levels, nefesh, ruach, neshama, are mevarer, and they do repair and they do refine the nefesh habamis, but still, since it's a pnimi, it still cannot be complete because the nefesh habamis is a very powerful force and still can conceal on the nefesh alikis. V'chein betchilas haveda. So now he's also saying here. So the same thing is the beginning of someone's aveda. Harei nefesh alikis misalmin ba nefesh habamis. The einim be is galus. So not just neshama ba'ape. Neshama ba'ape, there's no aveda at all as soon as you awake. So even in the early stages of davening, when you're still in the first stages, it's not like you got free from the nefesh habamis immediately. It takes stages because you still have to deal with the nefesh habamis, and it's still not beis galus completely. Oh, okay, you said what I just said. Just like, relatively speaking, it's like stages. The neshama is asleep. Then you wake up, it's just the minimum. And then it still takes time to free yourself from the tentacles of the nefesh habamis. V'chein gam, misha eved avedose betfila b'izgalus acheres nefesh halikis b'izgalus nefesh habamis harim kol mokem achrat tefila. So even a person who davens and davens properly in a way that reveals his keches nefesh halikis, and he dominates over the nefesh habamis. Nevertheless, after davening, when he goes into the world, kashehilich bin yonei elam yesh is gabrus ma nefesh habamis. You see, b'poel, that even davening, even if it's a proper davening, you go back into the world, there's still the nefesh habamis comes back full force. V'zehu mipnei she'hanefesh halikis u'b'chinas hislapshus v'tfisa. And the reason is because the nefesh halikis is not free from the nefesh habamis. It's in it. It's manifest in it. It's like it doesn't say trapped, but it's manifest. Shagam shabo b'b'chinas yirida v'tzimtzum u'b'chinas hislapshus mamish. Yeah. So nefesh halikis. Yeah. So since the nefesh halikis, and that's the golus of the nefesh halikis, like he says in Tanya, nefesh halikis as it is in Shemayim doesn't have these shackles. As soon as it comes down to Aguf and Nefesh Habamis, it's manifests in them, and at the end of everything. So even when you daven, and even when you have a moment of freedom and a moment of respite, you still have to deal with that hislapshus. And the hislapshus comes because it's a yiridah v'tzimtzum. In other words, it's not just the nefesh halikis and the slabish. It means the nefesh halikis had to diminish itself, so it doesn't have its full strength as it would if it were free of the nefesh habamis. In other words, the shama comes down the matam. So in other words, all the milas of that happened during davening, it still has to deal with the nefesh habamis. Al kain yesh.
It's a partial strength because it's sort of fighting it as it's going.
Yeah. Al kain yesh is gabrus mahamalbish. Malbish is the person who is. Al kain yesh is gabrus mahamalbish. What's malbish? Malbish is, but that's the levush, not the malbish. Okay, right. Okay, so therefore there's this gabish of the malbish, the one who is malbish the nefesh halikis, right? Kishameh. Now he's going to explain the higher level, yechida, chay yechida, the makif. This is the.
Why is it called? Why is it second soul? It's surrounded by the.
In Tanya, the Rebbe explains the reason it's called nefesh hashenis is number one, it comes in later begili. It comes in later begili.
This way it doesn't seem like the way
Yeah. Because the Gemara says it's because what's the lashon? To give a chance to the Yetzer of nefesh habamis to fight the nefesh halikis would come in right when you were born with a full intensity. There would be no agdamit tanise. That's the expression.
You equal the
Agdamit
playing
tanise.
field.
Yeah.
To balance the playing field.
Yeah. So now he's going to explain why you need an air makif, the sheresh and neshama. So he's explaining everything we learned in Haskalah now is in Aveda. That this whole thing of air makif, air pnimi, keteyu and tikkun, he's explaining it now in context of how we in davening and in Aveda. So he says like al kain, yeah. However, kishameir shares just like a new paragraph now. Kishameir when sheresh shemakar neshama ben neshama am lebeshes beguf. But when the sheresh shemakar neshama radiates, when the source of the neshama, not the nefesh halikis that's melubish pnimi, but the source of it, it's chay yechid. Remember, because that's why I said there's all the levels. Even neshama, even when it's melubish, nefesh ruach neshama are keches pnimim. Nefesh is like nehi, Ruach is the Midas, and as he said, then Neshama is the Meichel. Chai Yechid is Keser. Chai is like Arich, Yechid is Atik. That's how it works. So, in this context, so this Nefesh Elokis says it's Melubish and Nefesh Ruach Neshama. As much as it impacts, it still manifests and therefore is limited. And that's why after davening we go back with our Nefesh Abamis, and even during that, and it's a constant struggle. But if you connect to the root of the Neshama, Chai Yechida, and it radiates into the neshama levels of the guf. Harizepel hagba ba neshama. This elevates the neshama to another level. It lifts the neshama. The eina misalemes gam achrat tefillah, that it shouldn't become concealed after davening. V'adrabi he me'ira begoli. Not only does it not become concealed, but it radiates. It illuminates in a begoli, in a revealed way. The gam kishu binyoneh elim harihu ba'efen achar legamri. That even when he's involved in the worldly matters, it's in a completely different way. Like we say, that he sees in all his ways, you see Hashem. So in other words, if we only had the first levels of tefillah, you could say, okay, the Nefesh Elokis had a moment, but after davening, your back Velt takes over, and the Nefesh Abamis is in full force. But when you connect to the Sheirosh Neshama, which is Krishma and Shemoneh Esrei, that gives you kayach that even when you go there, you should be a little edled. So you see God hashgacha pratis in your work, which means this in all your ways we know Hashem. And that's where tefillah becomes tshuva ilah, the higher level. Hainu his galus sheirosh shamakar neshama. From the hechera, yeah. Tshuva returns. Omnam b'gdei liyah says galus sheirosh sham b'tefillah. Al zet tzarich liyis mekedim b'chinas tshuva tata. But in order to get to there, you have to go through the lower levels. You have to go through the lower tshuva. V'zeu ein named in this palam metech keved reish. This is all explanation. That's why we don't begin to daven till you have achna of a shiflus. You don't begin to daven until you have this bittul. Dihine ksiv.
Because that fails afterwards, that you should be able to do the daven more.
He's gonna say it. He's gonna say, yeah, because you can't get there without going the lower levels. Dihine ksiv. Kavanesi. V'noisei over reishi kemasa kovid. That by my sins over reishi passed over me, over my head, like a heavy weight. Pirush. Avanesi over reishi who can make Ki'im avanesechem hayim avdilim benechem. Yeah, the lashon is there. What's the beginning of the lashon? That you would have that there would be a connection with the Ki'im, that we have a connection to Hashem. However, because avanesechem hayim avdilim benechem ben elokechem shenasa masach mavdil, the masach habazil. Right. So the sins separate between you benechem ben elokechem and your God, and becomes like masach mavdil, like a separating curtain. Shroud. So that's Avanesi Avru Reishi. Elokechem b'chinas sheirosh shamakar neshama. Elokechem is the neshama as it's connected, is the source. Shezeh b'chinas elokus sheb'neshama. That's the level of Elokechem. Elokus, the divine within the neshama. That is seichel u'midas yesh b'kulam. Everyone has seichel u'midas. V'ikar elokus sheb'neshama is all b'chinas harotzen pashat. The innocent and plain rotzen that every Jew has, and the sin, transgression, creates a barrier that separates between the neshama as it's melubish beguf to the lekechem. Beinechem, that's beinechem beinekechem. Beinechem is the neshama as it's nefesh ruach neshama, and the lekechem is the way neshama is in sheirosh shamakar. So that's Avanesi Avureshi.
We also say that it separates, like Alder, if you're saying over here, you say also that it separates that, or
That's the chorus.
He's going to say.
no, like
Yeah.
You can separate that also too.
We're going to.
Can you say that?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to get graphic.
I think so. Nachle over al nafshena. How does that fit in here? Is that the end of the pasuk?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what we were talking about.
That's the end of the pasuk of Anechem.
Yeah.
No.
No?
Maybe Kavanesi over
Kim?
No?
Kim, no,
We're
men zeggen
saying
we
how we
gewoon...
learned it here.
Als de jongen dan nog zijn aan mij, maar die doen niet. Probably by Gavin relation to my
Okay, nachle over al nafshenu. Vaya dizeh haneshama mulbeshes guf yiredus masalam is b'yeser. Once there's this havdalah, once there's this separation, so the neshama that comes down the guf descends and becomes very concealed. V'zeu kamasa kovet, and that's the second half of the pasuk. So here's how the pasuk reads: Avanesha avru reishi kamasa kovet. It's not like Pasha Pshat. Pasha Pshat is my veins are heavy on my head, heavy on my heart, heavy on my soul. He says no. Because the vein is separated between the Neshama L'matat and the Neshama and the Sheirish Shemokir, that's the massacre becomes a heavy load. Life becomes heavy because it's impossible, because you have to deal with the Stalmus. The Nefesh Habamis is very dominant. U'kamoshe kosev kvad lev pare, kovid lev pare, same lashon kovid, heavy. The pare's heart became hard. Became like a liver.
Moved all the way down.
Is the liver heavy, doctor?
It's very.
No, but in Lashon Kodesh it's the same word. Liver
Heart is air. Liver is
No, listen. Look, when you say somebody has a heart of gold, you don't say it has a liver of gold. You know what I mean? You want to have someone's heart. You don't want their liver.
It would be heavier with the liver.
This says that he's
But it wouldn't pump blood.
giving
in
another-
Persian, when you want to say I love you,
Yeah,
the
give him a
word
liver.
comes out, I want to eat your liver, something like that. Wow.
So the way we come out, the appears the other one is that
wouldn't
Ayin
be on
Beis
camera,
Tech
without
Kevid Reish, Kevid would be in the union of heaviness, let's say. That the sins that Venus are in you in a way of heavy when it's weighing you down.
He didn't finish. He's explaining it now. So Amam Razal, that his heart became like liver, kovid. Tarechotzer hakovid, the section, the liver section inside the body, mafsik ben evri hanashim le evri hamazon.
Oh,
They separate between the organs of the lungs and the intestines.
diaphragm?
The diaphragm is the chotzer hakovid, is the section of the liver.
Yes, yes.
No, it's not section of the liver.
No.
Outside.
Yeah.
Okay, so.
Okay, so this separates
Tzar HaKavod.
chatzar,
Okay.
chatzar, the section, like the area.
No,
Yeah.
Chatzar is like... is like
Chatzar hakovid.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but Chatzar HaKavod is before the cover. It's the entrance, it's the
area.
courtyard before the cover.
Yeah, it's the surrounding.
Yeah, but...
It's the surrounding area.
Oh, the diaphragm's on top of the
Yeah,
liver.
yeah, yeah.
This is a part that comes from the carbon that goes on the Mizbeach.
One thing is clear, when we learn these things, as soon as there's medical terms, we know who the doctors in the room are. I didn't say who, what? There's no names.
He's a lawyer.
Huh?
Get sued.
Okay, mafsik. So this is mafsik. So it's same again. It's oven mafsik. So kovid is a mafsik. That's why it's called kovid. The evid and the shimihini betachlos hadakos. The lungs, or as he calls it, the organs of breath.
Runs in the heart.
Yeah, he doesn't say they. He doesn't say actually. He says evid and the shimeh. So I guess the whole area of breathing. That's very bedakus. That's very subtle.
Gets oxygen from
It's very subtle. The evid hamozin betachlos hagasis. And the vodim that digest the intestines and I guess the stomach and all that is tachlis hagasus. That's very subtle, very refined, and this is very very
By the way,
gross.
he pointed out about the gartel. Where do we put the gartel? Some put it...
By the hips,
Okay, but the Rebbe used to put it up here.
higher up.
In between every...
Yeah.
every
That's the right place to put it.
And the Rebbe once said the Arabs put it here.
It's psandos. Yeah. What I'm saying is some people put it down...
Because it goes too high.
By the Evra Mosen.
Exactly.
The Rebbe used to put it between the Evra...
And then there's the cool ones that keep it by their knees almost
Yeah,
today. You know,
because yeah,
it's the opposite, right? So,
it all makes sense, yeah.
yeah. The shtufe zima is the ones that throw the cup down. Okay, yeah, very interesting. Yeah. So you could just see by somebody.
Struggle decision Gansen.
No, they wear
Right.
a tie. Those wear ties. Start from there. Keep the chavan out.
That's the Meitzah Haggadah.
That's right.
And there are those that wear perfectly, and it doesn't mean much.
Well, the Rebbe happens to wear a tie once in a while.
Dr. Lang is B'dugma Shel Maila. Okay. So therefore, so it separates. So it separates between gas and dak. Ulamaila hu inyan yehira kiyah v'hi amavdil. What is it in Ruchnis, Lamaila? It's the Rekiah of the second day when Hashem created Vayir Rekiah, Havdil ben, yeah, that was the Mavdil. So that's the Kovid in Lamaila. That's the Mafsik that separates between the higher and the lower. The Mayim Matzmichin Kol Minei Tainug. Mayim, water, gives birth, Matzmichin, sprouts, all types of pleasure. The higher waters, they sprout spiritual pleasures, like the river that left Eden, Gan Eden. That's the higher. And the lower waters sprout, give birth to, or the Gashmistic pleasures. And the nefesh is avdola ben nefesh l'kis nefesh abamis. So the kovid and the rakia, that's the separation between the nefesh l'kis is the darkest things and nefesh abamis. So it separates between the two. That's the oven, the sins that separate. Okay. U'beneshama gufa hu avdola ben b'chinas nefesh l'ruach u'neshama. In the neshama itself is the separation between nefesh and ruach and neshama. The nefesh madrega tachtena sheshayich b'zeh helam. Nefesh, as we said, is the first low stage. It's like basically biological life, the early stages of life, and just you're technically alive, but they're shayich helam. There can be a concealment. V'ruach and neshama shemeich v'lev. That's the emotions and the mind. Hanim b'chinas gili eir. Before he said it more like nefesh ruach neshama or bechlolos on this side. Okay, he's going. It's more b'pratis. It's more in detail. Avol kovid leiv hu shalev nasa kekovid. But the kovid leiv is when the heart becomes like a kovid. Hu inyan timtum alev timtum ameach. A blockage of the heart and a blockage of the mind. She'ein nirgish ba'er eliki gam b'meach v'kol shkein b'lev. You don't feel the divine light, not in the mind and not in the heart. Balzel tzarich is keved reish, and that's why you need to have keved reish, because it became like covered. That's why you need to have the heavy mind and the kedusha. This is covered, the heaviness that's negative, that separates the two. Now to correct that heavy, what do you say? Covered. His heart became hard. The hardened heart that is connected to the liver, which separates between the refined and the less refined evarim and the rekia. So you have to have covered the kedusha.
Liver hard, like you said.
Yeah. So now you need to have covered the kedusha. So.
Does that connect with what we said regarding the Sheresh and Shama at the beginning?
We're reading. That's he's going to say. This you need to have the bittul, the submission and the bittul, and the humility. That's the feeling of bitterness, that you feel bitter inside of you in your soul. You feel sad and bitter and pained over all those halamas v'estadim. And how distant and how intense, essentially distant we are from Elikus. Right. And your heart should break. In other words, to fix that part, that has separated between you and Elikus, is by crying over it. That gufa makes your heart break.
That makes it less hard.
And it also awakens arachimim rabim. So first it breaks your heart, in other words, from below. It also awakens and me'erer rachimim rabim, intense or many compassions on the nefesh.
What one is supposed to do. He's supposed to be Memidas, he's supposed to be Me'erer.
Yeah.
Then it happens, it's not Sagbas
nefesh. And this too, is also part of the Meridas, part of your bitterness, part of your sadness. through the Ein Adam Lispal Elamatech Keved Reish, and through this Keved Reish, which is Kedusha, the Keved of Kedusha, through this you lift up the Nefesh. Like it says, I will lift you up on the wings of eagles, and I will bring you closer to me. Through the wings of eagles, which is what? What's Nesharim? That's B'chinas Harachamim. A Nesher, eagle, is B'chinas Harachamim.
He carries his baby in the
tongue. So in other words, the Keved Reish that that breaks the heart brings down the Rachamim at such a level. Bris Ksusa.
Eschem is raising the neshama. How? I'll come from the neshama on the wings of the eagles through Yisrael Rachamim. And through that, V'avi Eschem Elai.
Latzmusi. Yeah. Bris Krusa. Like it says, that after the Eibishter gave the Yud Gimel the 13 attributes of compassion to Moshe Rabbeinu, so it says, Bris Krusa, now you have a covenant that forever, it's a rule that when you invoke the Yud Gimel Midas HaRachamim, when you invoke that compassion, they will never be not responded to. They will never be a deaf ear. They will never fall on a deaf ear.
We say those things after doctor. Interesting, that's a topic.
What?
After Shmoneh Esrei.
That's what happened.
You're just saying what happened? That's what you're doing?
That's what happened.
You're supposed to look before, he's saying.
No, the Yud Gimel happened right after.
It has to come down during davening and then.
No, it comes out after your Veda. After you go up, that's what he says.
No. That makes your Veda successful.
What makes the Aveda successful?
The fact that we get Rachamim during the Veda. That's the whole thing, I think. And then it seems funny that afterwards.
No, through this that we do all that awakens afterwards. Rachamim Rabbi. No. Always need Rabbi. For everything we need Rabbi. For everything.
Let's V'zeu gam kinin hadzoka. Meichlev covered.
He's explaining about why Ayin Beis.
Okay, v'zeu gam kinin hadzoka kedem atfila. This is also the of tzedakah that we give tzedakah before davening. The famous story with Tzemach Tzedek on this pasuk. This is also the inyan of tzedakah that we give before davening, because it gets to the bittul. Famous story with Tzemach Tzedek. He once went to daven, and there was a poor person outside, but he was rushing. So he went to daven, and he didn't have these galas of the Alter Rebbe didn't come to him that he usually would have. So he realized, Ani b'tzadik echze panecha, that to grasp the ponim, in this case the ponim of the Eibishter, the ponim of the Alter Rebbe, tzaddik comes through tzedek. So that the tzedakah is the hakdama to the gili. So this also, tzedakah, like the bittul of this too creates, through tzedakah, you also have agbos hanefesh. It lifts up the nefesh. Kameshakosov, if it's tzedakah tereimim goy. See, every pasuk here is like, so the bediuk explains the tzedakah tereimim goy, that it lifts up the goy. V'zeu inyan nesiyas reish l'chabrim sheresh haneshama. And this is the inyan of nasi reish, to lift up the head, to connect it with the sheresh haneshama. The ime yesharesh, he's answering now the question. Why do you have to lift up the head? The head is already lifted. So he's going to answer, of course, that reish is still how it's the neshama lubish beguf. The ima yesha b'reishu shareishu madrega geveya. So even though reish, a head is the high level, but komakom liyash shazel b'chinas islapshus yachliyas b'zei salmus, as we just learned. Because it's b'slapshus, the nefesh l'kis mislabash, even the reish. Remember, reish is, we're talking about nefesh, the ruch, neshama is still islapshus. So therefore there can be hisalmus, there can be a concealment. That's
So
why we
we're
need to
really
have.
talking about the rush. We're
Huh?
talking about the rush as it is the slapshus. It's not really talking. So the question you're referring when you say pick up the Noses Reish, it's referring to the rush when it's when it's more.
That is the reish.
Chayachid is already.
No, Chayachid is Keser.
Okay.
Right. So even the reish needs to. That's why the reish needs to be lifted. You have to be lifted reish l'chaberim sherish hamakar neshama, because the reish is the neshama as it comes down in the guf. You want to connect it to the fourth level, the fourth rung of the ladder, which really gives you the kayach that also when you go back in Yonei Elam, you still have a lakus in your life. That requires an nesiyas reish. How do you have the nesiyas reish, as we learned? Through two things. He said through the bittul and through tzedakah. That you're through the shviras halev, you are able to through feeling the distance and feeling the sadness, you're able to connect the lower part of the neshama, the nosias and the nesiyas reish. And this is the meaning of Su'as Reish, to lift the head. To lift the heads of the children of Gershon. So that union is Siyas Reish canal. So Pasha Nosei comes after the end of Pasha Bamidbar, where it says already that the kahos was already lifted. So before Nasiyas Rosh of Gershon, you need to have Kedima Kos B'nei Kos Nasiyas Rosh Lefi Shehem Mitei Ha'aron, because kahos Gershon carried the Yiriyas, right, and the Klei Mishkan. Yeah. No, kahos carried also the Aron. Yeah. The Netera, what's the Teinei Ha'aron? The Aron is Teira. The Netera Keli Klolis Lili Gili B'chinas Atzma Seir and Sov the Reisa Mechach Menafkas. Teira, as he's going to explain, is the Gili Klolis of Atzma Seir and Sov, because Teira comes from Chochma. V'yidua Sha'Chochma Keli Gili Er Makif K'mesh Kasam Makamacha. I mean, actually, this whole Hemshech is about this. HaChochma is the Gili of Er Makif. Al-Kain had is a Kodum l'Nesiyas Rosh. Yidua Sha'Teira Nisan is Gam Kim Kayach Ba'Vedet Tefillah. And it's also known that Teira gives strength to the Vedet Tefillah. Shazah when you limit the Teira Shekedem at Tefillah. This is the limit that we learn before davening. The Pasha is talking about Chassidus here. That Teira who eis to v'tishia eis l'nefesh l'kis lehetzim and mizger asir liyas is galsa kechus nefesh l'kan. So Teira is eis and tishia. Eis is strength. It gives strength to nefesh l'kis to take her out of the prison where it's imprisoned and hostage in the nefesh habamis. His galsa kechus nefesh l'kis. V'gami tishia lahatish kechus nefesh habamis. So two things. Eis is strength to nefesh l'kis to free itself from the prison of the Nefesh Habamis, and Teshia means to weaken. Weakens the Keiches of the Nefesh Habamis. So he's again explaining how this too, that's the cause before Gershon. This is how Teira helps the Aved of Tefillah. Like it says in Tanya, he brings this in Tanya. That beginning, a person serves a daita de nafshe for himself. What's the connections here? What's the connection here? That's the Lashon. How's it connected? So how's that connected here? Okay, I don't know.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
No, this is this is a Tanya. This is in Tanya. Ach kolze hu b'madrege. We can go on. Ach kolze hu b'madrege gevur yesemin keved reish. Tefillah is higher than keved reish. The aveda the tefillah shaydei agdomas atera is b'madrege gevur yeser. In other words, the keved reish before davening is more of a bittul and chnav shiflus. Teira is even higher than that. And this inyan of Teira is also shaykh more to somebody who's already standing on a madrega, and his nefesh l'kis is not so much b'yisalmus. In other words, someone he can ask a question. If you're learning Chassidus or Teira before davening, what do you need the achnav v'shiflus? He's been miramis, in other words. Exactly. Because first of all, Teda is a much higher level. And secondly, to have someone who already is Nefesh Elikis is higher and not so much B'is Salmos, Teda helps. But for those of us with the Nefesh Elikis goes in B'is Salmos, you need to have the bittul, because you need to have the Shvidas Halev. Basically, he's saying that essentially a Rebbe or somebody in a Hecham Madrega where there's no Nefesh Abamis or a very small concealment, the Lev Nishbud is not as necessary, because he's already freer. He doesn't say it's not. In Indian, the spouse goes on everyone. But he's just adding that. So you need to have Tzur Tabachin's Lev Nishbud. V'nitchu v'I Efshel Haskell Tchilas Avedi Al Dei Teda. Rak Ashkide Yisera B'Teda Ve'ika Mesiris Nafshi the Ibri Gegebenkeit. In Teda Shezeh Moyel U'B'Yesu B'Pnimius HaTeda. Yeah. But the Ika is the Ashkide. In other words, the effort. The Yigiyah, which also is Kabbalah, is also breaking. Not just enjoying the learning.
Take off, you need the
V'tzarech li is Shuvat Tato.
sword, if you use the Teda.
יש להב לבחינת הדעה יותר, וצורך לי שוב את התו. וכאשר הוא באיזה דרגה, אז יוכל ליאס הידי, אז יוכל ליאס הידי הקדומס התרא. When he's at a certain madrega, try by avoiding certain people were there. When you're a certain madrega, then it could be through the Hakdom of Torah. There are probably some Bachrim learning a lot of Chassidus and enjoying
Not
it.
necessarily Chassidus, because it'll be Yeser B'Pnimis HaTorah.
I know, yeah. Nigli, you think they would learn?
Look, it'll be Yeser B'Pnimis HaTorah.
Okay. וזהו שהקדים הכוסף as b'nei kosel and siyas reish. That's why b'nei kosel.
Miotis goes away though?
Huh?
Miotis goes away.
Doesn't say that.
Is it covered, you know?
No, first of all, the learning Torah comes before the Keved Reish, for Pashtus.
Before the cut.
Unfortunately, you didn't have.
Okay. וזהו שהקדים הכוסף as b'nei kosel and siyas reish. That's why it starts b'nei kosel before nesiyas reish. Mishum kavod u'mayla hatera. Because of the kavod, the honor and the maila of Torah. U'mekol mokum shneim shavim d'lgabe ha'makif be'emes kulam shavim. And the truth is they're both equal. Because the gabe the makif, everything is equal.
Why is it before the
Everything is equal. Why does one come before the other one? Okay.
Let's say
He's basically saying, first of all, what's he talking about? What is kulam shavim? Which one's it? Shneim. What's the shneim? Meaning Gershon and Noses, Gershon, Gam, that's that Gam Hem. That they're equal.
Sure.
It's a remez here. I'm not sure what he's trying to say, but he's probably trying to say that.
Say that they are.
No, the Seder for sure. But why they shavim? What's the point of being shavim? Because the bottom line, when you connect maybe the neshama as it's in the goof with the neshama that's sherish, then they all become one.
Isn't it because the Lagabi Makif, Lagabi something higher, aside the Gershon and Saidas, they're considered like nothing, they're equal.
V'zeu noses reish, v'chein suvos reish, utzichim li nases as reish, v'hainu ad ha'keved reish, the kedusha v'ayidei ha'teira. And that's the meaning of noses, to lift the reish, to lift the head. You need to lift the reish, because the reish is still in the psalm, can be psalmos, because it's in the melubish in the goof and nefesh habamis. Sh'ayidei zeh nasin esiyas reish, through the keved reish of Kedusha, through the bittul of Kedusha. And through Teira, through this you lift the head, the hainu is chabres, sherish, shemok, and neshama, and neshama, mulbashas, beguf. The thing is, it's an interesting thing that I find is that he doesn't at all make any reference to what it says in the Maimer.
But that's the whole idea. The whole idea is the bittul of the Eres and the Kalim. That you lacking the bittul. If you have the bittul, then it works.
But he doesn't refer to
Yeah,
it.
he doesn't say it clearly, but that's
He wrote this act. This is what he wrote.
No, but
No,
he
no,
usually
no.
connects. He usually
connects
does.
it, and now he expects you
Maybe
to
the
make the
kids
connection.
connected.
You're right, 100%. I was thinking about it then. But that's the concept. It's
Also,
exactly the concept.
also, it sounds like Er Makif and Primi here. Because Er Primi is the way that is this.
Yeah. It's clearly the whole concept. It just doesn't clearly.
Yeah.
Keep on.
Okay.
Machlok.
וזהו שכוסו נוסס רייש, דהנה נשום שבגוף יש בה מיילס פנימי, אך יוכל ליס יסלמס בנפש הבאמיס, ויציע על די התפילה. נשום as it's in the goof has the mile of air pnimi, but it could be bisalmas, that's why it needs tefillah. Umeir and makif l'neshama shemagbias and neshama shebeguf. Before he didn't say makif. Before he didn't say.
He would have clearly connected it. And this time.
But he didn't say the word er makif.
And here's the enough.
וזהו תשובה אלוה שצריך להסתכל תשובה צד עקב ודרש, כי המנסחים מבדילים ביניכם בין הלכושה בנשמה, because Avenus separate between you and הלכוס and neshama. That's the shadish. Shalibi nasa mekovid, kikovid. I'm sorry. The tzarich lis medidas b'shadish achimam. You need to have the bitterness, the sadness, to reconnect. By the nasak bos hanefesh, and through that you'll elevate the nefesh. V'zeh nosya says v'higdim b'nei kos hayno ateidah sheked v'tul l'gab ha'makiv shneim shom.
Where's the emlechai to this to tackle to the hemshech of the inyanim? Is tackling from bittul? Is that what it is?
Yeah, the bittul. Without the bittul, the areas don't work and the kelim
Just
don't
give an
work.
example, classic bittul example.
That's the
the whole
kevid reish.
thing,
Without
yeah.
the kevid reish, there's no.
Covered rice, it's your bittul, is your
Rabbi,
reaction to
but
covered
he said
rice.
over
If
here,
you're so bad about the covered rice,
Mikol Mokeh,
human
Mikol Mokeh, Shneim Shav,
Idea is compared to Gershon, B'nai Gershon.
Okay.
Yeah, idea is B'nai Gershon. It's covered rice, and then because of the learning which
What?
Set the cameras on stuff that's on.
Are we stopping here?
Oh,
one second.
No.
I have no problem.
Just begin.
Rabbi,
Hey,
Yeah, let's go a little more.
go.
this he says Mikol
I'm
Mokeh,
not
Shneim
rushed.
Shav, L'gabi Hamakiv, Be'emes Kulam Shavim, meaning what?
This is all the Akdama for Kalman. Now we can start learning.
Sachim daf samach chesam beis.
Yeah,
Meaning,
You have to look in Tanya because that's where it really is.
How does that make sense?
It says like this: Rav Sheishes, we're talking about the Mile of Torah. Rabbi Yosef, Yilav HaYom.
The Kadorim come
Shuk,
here.
Shuk, yeah.
Rav Sheishes every 30 days with Chazir is learning. And he would lean on the side of the doorpost and he would say the famous Gemara that we know: Chadoi nafshoi, rejoice my nefesh. Loch karoi, loch tanoi. For your sake I learn Chumash, for your sake I learn Mishnah. Frag die Gemara ein, tzedach nicht azoi. V'ha'amar Rabbi Elazar, v'china Rabbi Talmudenu, v'del Hada, v'china Ve'ein tzedach nicht azoi. V'ha'amar Rabbi Elazar, Yilmali Teiref, not the Teiref, in the sky Mushamayim V'aretz. You're saying that the Limud HaTeiref is because of the Tainug of the Nefesh. I do it for the sake of my Nefesh. He says, "L'malei Teirah l'niskai m'shemayim v'aretz." If not, the Teirah would be no matter. "L'loi brisi yom v'layla, kukas shemayim v'aretz l'samti." And for the Gemara answers, true, but meikara ki avedin shavayt is the nafshik kavi. In the beginning, when a person learns, he does so on his, for what is it tied to in English?
His own benefit.
He doesn't use the word his own benefit. In the beginning, when he does it,
his desire.
in the first person of man, he does so with himself in mind. Adait the nafshik means with himself in mind. Is only in the beginning.
So what's the point? Well, how's it relevant
That's
here?
enough to fix himself.
That's what it says in Tanya. That's it.
Daita the nafsha,
So
no?
that nafshi was to do it, you know.
Yeah, but what do we say? That nafshim with yourself in mind, not because I'm going to teach, not because it is just you about you.
What?
Yeah.
No, it's supposed to be a raya. It's supposed to be a raya that Teirah is misayeh lavedas atfila. In other words, not Teirah l'shem atzmon, or Teirah l'tzlib l'telfon tefillah. That's the point.
Teirah l'shem fixing yourself.
Okay.
Exactly what I said. With yourself in mind.
Teirah l'shem fixing
Very
yourself. Yeah. Teirah l'shem
Happy
fixing
the
yourself.
things are so.
Now you learn one more us, right?
Yeah, we did Nun Beis already.
Avez, that's already
We
way
did-
too much Avez.
we did Nun Aleph, yeah.
I'm talking about.
We're holding Nun Beis.
Maybe
You can skip Nun Aleph. You can go to Nun Beis.
Koyin
Skip it enough.
You can, whatever you want. I'm just telling you.
I prefer learn it if I don't mind.
Whatever you want. Do what you want.
Can we learn Nun Aleph again?
Mine was more fire.
Huh?
Oh, no.
Zeu sha'Torah Messiah ma'aveda d'tefillah. That's what Torah is about to help my
Right. Okay, I understand. Yeah, that's Pashtus Pshat.
Koyin that the nafsha means really working on yourself, right? It's not just what do they say about in the Gemara?
No, there's a different meanings. The Tanya he brings up is a whole birudim in it. It's whether the takanatzme or it's for the halakus. I think it's connected to Eiz and Teshia too. I have to look in Tanya. I'm almost sure in Tanya he connects it to Eiz and Teshia. The Eiz is for the nefesh halakis. Lamed that area is, and later Lamed Ches.
That Koyin that the nafsha is a person working on himself.
Somewhere, yeah. Those prokim, Lamed.
For his own benefit.
You know, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'm going to skip the beginning. I'll just go to this because let's keep the flow. It's just easier for me at
What's
least.
Lagabi Amakiv Be'emes Kula, meaning that Lagabi is something higher, they're all equal, right? Well considered like nothing.
Yeah, I don't know if it's connected to the makif of this maimer, but if you go back to the beginning,
In general.
yeah.
Talking about Makif in general.
Look.
I'm starting from middle of page Tov Kuv Zayin.
Friday, yeah.
L'havin kol zeh yesh lag the mashnas barle b'masha amar b'mishna the oves ha'imah shali shalach shalach zumi the beinis v'yesh imnu zumi the zdein. So he's summing up the whole flow now that we learned in the Mishnah there in Perikei that the two opinions, Tanakama shali shalach is mid beinis. It's an average midah. It's not zdein. And the Yesh Emrim is that it's mid zdein. What it says everywhere in Gemara, Keifin al midas daim, that generally what is midas daim, what's really cruel, when you are not chasser, you're missing nothing, and you still deprive someone else from hana. So al pi halacha, there are dinim, where you can force a person to do something for a neighbor or something like that. There's different halachas. Because you lose nothing and that person is gaining. There's different halachas about it, shchenim and other different things. One example is in the Gemara is about let's say the guy wants to move something through your porch, and nothing, you won't lose anything, but it's your property. So if you don't let, you can force someone to move it through your territory, etc. Obviously, a case.
It's like median.
That's like Zdaim. If you don't, Zdaim, the Gemara says in Sanhedrin when it starts on what taka. It doesn't say in the pasuk in this week's parsha actually. What was Zdaim's sin? Great sin. It doesn't really say anywhere. It says in Yecheskel that they were not leihachzikum ani ve'evyin. They didn't give. They did not give charity. And the Gemara gives a whole list of things. You know the story with a girl that helped someone else and they tied her up and then a roof with the honey. But one thing it says in the Gemara there, that they said it was a very fertile territory, like we learned, and they felt they don't need anybody, take care of ourselves. They wanted to be mavatal, that people should even travel. They wanted to close the roads. So the Gemara says. So that's the ultimate zen end of Bezelei Chassid. That means just so others shouldn't benefit to come through, they would lose nothing. It's like closing a road to pass through. So that's like midas, that's ultimate midas daim. So even though Midas Dame ended up being that they were cruel to others, I mean the Gemara also says that when an Erech would come, they would give him a bed. If he was too short, they would stretch him. If it was too long, they'd cut off his thing. So bottom line is
that akin to the isolationists?
Yeah, absolutely.
Those that advocate isolationists?
Ultimate, he says in the beginning of the sugya, he says mamish economically. He says they're mamish hepach tarbus, hepach kalkola. They don't believe in any interaction, not giving and not taking. No, it's not just shalach is mela. Shalach, I don't take from you. You could say that's not bad. They don't want to take matanos from anyone. But shali, that's the big curse. That mine is mine, and that's it. I don't give anything. No tzedakah. No. Even if I don't lose anything, etc., etc. See, tzedakah you're losing, but you do it for the inyan, whatever, for bittul, for the mitzvah. He says clearly that they're that type of isolation. No, the whole Maimonim was speaking not only that they are not makabel from one another. They don't want to be mashpia. Why wouldn't they want to be mashpia? That was the whole the bottom line. It's very fascinating because it's interesting. This is like you think Zdaim was like the worst possible crime, but because it's the root of all problems.
Taylor would advocate the universal trade.
100%.
100%. Not only that, the Mishnah, I looked it up a little. The Mishnah says that when you say shalach shali v'shali shalach, zu midas amoritz. All the mefarshim teach it's not midas buddhist, it's actually amoritz, kipshute, because that's kalkola. That I give you and you give me.
Capitalism.
Right. A chosid is shali shalach v'shalach shalach. But no. No, then one second. Then it goes.
Where's Moshe when we need him?
Yes, the last one is shalach shali v'shali shali. That's communism, and that's Russia. It's interesting because that's Russia, not Zdaim. Zdaim, in a way, is worse. Russia says what's yours is mine, what's mine is mine. You think that's Zdaim? No, Zdaim says I don't want yours, but you don't have anything of mine. In some way, that's much worse than a Russia. Because that's like the root of total selfishness.
Zero interaction.
Like that's what he said, the narcissism, selfishness, that type of...
Even when I say yours is mine, there's some interaction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Worse than, you don't exist.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Just remember to save it after.
Right.
Okay. I'll remind you.
Absolutely. Okay. L'dasa tamas same is when then there's a chosek. There's another halacha about the then there's a chosek. It's an interesting one. The one about in where is it in Barbasa? Ksubis about that if somebody you're a seicher, you rent a machine from somebody to sheave to cut to they call it processing of grain. They call it. There's a certain machine or certain
Threshing.
equipment, threshing, whatever.
Whatever it is, yeah.
And instead of payment to the guy, he says, "Thresh my wheat for me as well." Okay, that's instead of payment. But then the guy becomes wealthy, the one who's the renter, not the renter, the owner. He doesn't need you to thresh it anymore for him. Now he wants you to pay him. It's a shayla in the Gemara. So the answer is, do you have to pay him? Because that was not the agreement. Your agreement was barter. So the answer is, if you're making enough parnasa without that person, you have to do it you have to pay him. If you're not, then you could say, I don't have money for you, I could do it for you, but I don't have to pay you, because the zen and the lechas. That's what the Gemara says. I mean, it's a drei, but that's, the bottom line is wherever, but the shayla becomes, for example, if you have an empty apartment, and you know you can't rent it for a month, is that also zen and lechas? You just let someone stay there for free? And there's no expense to you, let's say. Then the din is not that, because there is I don't know why, but I think that's it. Huh?
The whole reason why he says he should stay there is because there's the shading that comes. He says the eight is he puts straw in there, you understand? Therefore it's not the Zen.
Okay, there you go. So actually, Zen when the guy stays there, it's better for you, because it prevents the shading.
That's what he said.
He should pay him. Should pay your rent.
No, he can do it without it. He says, straw, that'll keep the shading over.
Right.
He explained it in Kedusha. The air is then.
So says the Bale Nigla, shadim. What's shadim? It's not going to tell me shadim.
We have clearly makifim and areas that we understand.
Right.
Right. We really got it.
Explain though that Zen and Avizel Chaser in Kedusha, that Eivishter gives in a way that we're not, but Eivishter is not Chaser Klum. That's explained in Kedusha.
Yeah, that's the whole makif. Anyway, okay, fine. So Yeshem, that's Yeshem. That's the Tanakama. Well, that's a Yeshem gan k'shechosuk tzas had a midas dem. The Yeshem says that shali shalach shalach is midas dem, because the fact that you say shali and you're not ready to be mashpiyah to somebody, even if you're missing a bit, that's not appropriate. So according to the Tanakama, shali is not great, but it's midas beinus. What's midas dem when you're not giving and you're getting and you're nothing lechosed. You're not missing anything and you don't want to give. You want to deprive someone even though you don't lose anything.
We said before that Tay was definitely makabel someone.
No, he said that the word of makabel. He's going to say right now. We'll say it right now. When it's boy the inyan l'mayla, and we explained the inyan l'mayla. When it's boy and explained the inyan l'mayla, how is it l'mayla? You see, it's interesting. I looked in the Mishnah there. The Yesh Emrim, without the Maimer here, the Rebbe Rashab, you could teach that
Poshut Pshat does not do with Chosek Tzas.
it does have to do with Chasuk Tzas.
Poshut Pshat in the Mishnah.
Some of Poshut Pshat in the Mishnah is
At least we leave Rosh
no. The Poshut Pshat in the Mishnah, because listen, the Mishnah comes in context of the Gemara. You can't just look at the Mishnah. What's midas dem according to Tanakama? That's the question. In the Shlish Shalosh Shalach is not midas dem. What is midas dem? There is a midas dem that the Gemara says that when you deprive someone, when you don't miss anything. The Yesh Emrim is saying that everyone agrees that's midas dem. Midas dem is even more than that. Even when you're missing something, you deprive.
That's Poshut Pshat.
It's also that Poshut. Yeah. I mean, Poshut Pshat, you don't talk about the Tanakama. You just talk about the Yesh Emrim. But what you asked, why is the Tanakama not hold like the Yesh Emrim? Because Tanakama will say no. Just because you don't give somebody doesn't mean you're midas dem. If you don't give someone and you deprive, that's midas. Remember, he's using the lashon midas dem. That's why the Mefarshim bring it. It's not. Then the question you could say is that you could say the Yesh Emrim is holding that shali is midas dem. The idea of just being selfish, even if you don't lose anything. Even if you're not deprived. No. 1 second. No, you could say the Yesh Emim holds that Midas Dame is even if there is not Chosek Tzas. The fact that you say something is mine, and you don't want to give it.
That's the Poshup Shot, that's what I'm saying.
Selfishness.
That's the Poshup Shot. I think
Selfishness.
The Shot is introduced.
No, but the Mefarshim all do because Midas uses that lashon. Why is it Midas Dame? Midas Dame. No, but I'm saying if that's Poshup Shot is what? That the Tanakhama says selfishness is not Midas Dame. Yeshem says selfishness is. Even if you're saying even if there's no chosek tzas,
It makes more sense.
No, but if there's no chosek tzas, then the Gemara, then everyone has to hold its midas dame. If you're not giving, and nothing is being lost from you.
You're not even losing anything.
Right. So that's why you have to say chosek tzas, because if there's no chosed, everyone holds its midas dame. That's the Gemara everywhere. Tanakama can't disagree with that.
Everyone holds that just is there.
Yeah. Zenan of Zeli Choshev. Someone does not have Zenan. That's the klal. It says it many times in Gemara. It says Keifnal Midas Dame. Midas Dame is basically the idea that you're giving even though you don't lose anything. So the Tanakama can't disagree with that. That's why you have to touch Chosek Tzas. That's the vort, right? Does that make sense? Okay. In his body, in the mile, the masha zeh chosek tzas has b'chinas hashpah shem b'chinas hakelim. The meaning of chosek tzas is hashpah becomes the level of kelim. Hainu by eira mislabish b'kelim. See, the eira that's mislabish b'kelim. So zeh idei yiridas b'tzimtzum ha-mashpia l'ashpia b'chinas hislapshus. This is through the mashpia coming down and be mitzamtzum into the hislapshus. V'hashpah zu lo yahya klal b'tayu. You hear, doctor? In Torah, this did not exist at all. This idea that you should, because it's chosek tzas, that you should take of your time and your energy to be mashpia to someone, does not exist in Torah, the concept. Not because of makif, because you don't have any, there's no bittul. We're not talking about makif, we're talking, even pnimi doesn't exist there, because there's no idea of caring enough and doing it for another.
Why? Because the way they come down, because they are in a pchin of yeshes, therefore?
Because there's no bittul. There's no bittul.
Zero bittul.
So because there's zero bittul, therefore?
Here he goes. V'ashpah zu lo yayi klal b'toya lius, t'ashpah hi b'chinas bittul later l'tzamtzum. Because hashpah, the idea of hashpah means the idea, basically, for example, when you say ben azeh, nafshi choshka b'teira, someone doesn't want to marry because they want to learn Torah. That's the ultimate in kedusha of ultimate selfishness. Doesn't want us to give 1 second away for something that may diminish him. So that b'chal doesn't exist because it's diminishing. Because it's bit related l'tzamtzum. V'hi mitzad hakavona el yena, and that comes mitzad the kavona el yena. The higher kavona is that you should have that bittul. Dini'itzis haschola sheba hamakabel, because the beginning is wedged into the end. So therefore, when you have bottled bittul to the Eibishter who created it all, you sense that you can't just be into yourself. You have to be mashpia, even though you may be diminished. And as a result, you'll get a lot more in return. That doesn't exist at all in Torah. The kelim to Torah, shoyi b'chinas yesh, v'hi b'chinas shleimus batzon rei rotzu later l'tzamtzum. And the kelim of Torah, who are b'chinas of yesh, ego, self, and the shleimus ba'atzmam, they feel their own shleimus. They don't want to go down and diminish themselves in any way. Ki'im l'kabel atzman. That's important because there is a kabbalah going on, because they are kelim, as you asked. So their kelim consists only of receiving.
What is Meitzah Garden?
He's not saying it here. Meitzah Garden is the narrowness of the throat. Okay. That's between Meichen and Midas.
How does that conform to Yesh Omrim and if they thought kelim?
So this is the Yesh Omrim. Yesh Omrim is talking about kelim. He's talking about that level. That level, you're talking about a level of that shali. That I'm saying, I just want mine, and I don't want to in any way go to someone else because I don't want to be mashpia. That's dain. That's midas dain.
But with yours isn't there because he's accepting.
No, the only Kabbalah in is Tayu is for yourself. You take, and you don't.
But it's still being the Kabbalah, so it's what's yours is also mine.
No. There's no. We're talking about when you say yours and mine. You're talking about the level and the lower levels, not what's from higher. No, because the kalim of Tayu are being created by God. Of course, they take that, but that's not taking. That's what creates them. No, that's not called taking. That's not called what he says. The Kabbalah Atzman. Basically, they are what they are. Look, even a narcissist was created.
Yeah,
but that's about it. I mean, in other words, he breathes the air.
But he keeps on taking.
A narcissist breathes the air and doesn't say shalach shalach. When it comes to breathing air, trust me, he takes.
But he's taking right from the Eibishter, and that causes it to explode. So, but
okay. V'loy matzu geroyim ba'atzman. They also find no weakness, no chesed, no deficiency in themselves. V'gam lo yisn b'makabel, and they also see no advantage in the makabel. Man, this is total narcissism, airtight. They don't see good in them. Okay, fine.
I'm not missing anything. You have nothing to give me.
Yeah.
But the makabel's
I'm shlemus. That's why they don't want to be mashpia. They don't want to be makabel. Shali, shalach. That's zum midas dain. That means shali means no hashpah. Shalach, no kabbalah. That's stain. Gendikt.
There was nothing else. It was only
Okay. Now.
Who were they talking about? The other.
Now the Tanakama. Now he talks about the Tanakama.
In relation to the other Kalim and Eros.
We spoke before, both Oidus and Kalim, but also to what happens afterwards. Remember, every world is created to give to the next world. One spirit to give to the next. Tell you that all stops. It doesn't happen. It gets all messed up. In Tikkun.
But the first one to get is no world to give it to him, only the Eibishter. So he's not so bad.
Who?
The first one, the first meter, Chesed, or whatever. There's no meter to give it. He's getting it right from the Eibishter.
What do you mean? But the kavanah of God that created all of it was that there should be no seif mitchilos, that you should give and take. So it's missing the point.
Who is the first one taken from only the Eibishter? The top one.
I don't wait. The word "taking" from the Eibishter is not. It does not.
Who's he supposed to take from?
Who's he?
The top sphere, the top.
He's not supposed to. This is a world that resulted from a distortion. There's a lot of light that remains from the higher levels, and now there's also kalim. The question is, what is their dynamic? How do they function? That's what we're talking about right now. The problem is, number one is mitzad the kalim. He just said the kalim are in a place of complete yeshus. They don't interact with each other. They're not interested in each other. And they definitely, obviously, will not give to lower levels. And now he's talking about the Tanakama. Now what about the light? So now he says, this is not a Tanakama. The Ashpa that is level of leichasher klal, that nothing is diminished, nothing is missing. Now we're talking about the air that's higher than the keli. This is the transmission that comes without islapshus. That's why leichasher klal. Before we were talking about they don't want to interact. Okay, there you could say,
I'm losing something.
Whatever. A type of something diminished. Here, b'chlal, there's nothing. You're an air that's higher than kelim, so there's leichasher klal. Didn't go away from matzmuseh. He's not away from the source. Not in any way diminishing himself into going into kelim. It's a light. It's like the sunlight. Imagine the sunlight would suddenly say, I don't want to give any light anymore. It's not, nothing is, you're not losing anything by giving light. The light shines everywhere. You don't have to think, should I shine light in a shul and not in a mokum of klippas? Light illuminates the whole earth. Doesn't have to, without effort, without exertion, without having to make any. You could say a teacher has to think about his students. How am I going to explain? Not explain. Takes time, etc. I'm just giving an example. He didn't use this example, I'm just using an example. So, there's no chasr b'chlal. Vashpazru hoye gamkin b'teir. Now this hashpa wasn't teyu, but with a big qualification. Ach lo hoye b'chinas nana. This hashpa was there, but not in a way that anyone benefits from it. Ki'im adrab shlei nosem mokum lasfira acheres. Because as he said, this came from its complete yeshus, the narcissism of the light that just wants to be there, does not consider anybody else. It's not doing it so much. It's so the way it transmits is not through any. It does not cause anybody benefit. It doesn't really have room for anything else. So it's another manifestation of yeshus. The yeshus of the kalim of tayu or the eres b'kalim. There, the yeshus is, hey, listen, I don't want to interact with anybody. I want to this because I don't want to be in any way diminished. Here, the yeshus is the other way around. I'm not going to be diminished, that I know, but I'm not giving anything in any way that anyone else can benefit. So here, the yeshus doesn't leave room for anybody else in a different way. Because that's the rule of tayu. That's the gamken. It's also yeshus and mitzias. I rule v'lo achar, nobody else. Ani v'afsi eid. Remember, ani is asis ayin. So eid novade is ayin. And ani v'afsi eid is ani.
Ani hu v'lo yacher. When someone says ani, it doesn't mean so much.
Right.
Not the other one.
I heard once from the Shem of Chernobyl, he said, "Vavozak meida ani lefanecha, not ani meida lefanecha." So he said, because meida, as the ani is nish lefanecha. In other words, you don't start. The Rebbe once spoke about it also. He once said, why not? You don't start with ani meida, because it's not about haidov comes first, bittul comes first, not ani. Ich bin da and ich bin meida. Meida. And then there's also like that. It's a different word, but you know, I was a guy. I told you he was in yeshiva, a little older than me. When he went around, he traveled around the world. He was in Australia, Galen, he went to Rabbi Nissen in Paris, in Brenois, to learn Avedis Hatfilah. So when he came back, I asked him, "No," he said to me, "It was nice, but it wasn't as geschmack as I thought it would be." So I said, "Maybe davening is nicht as a geschmack." So his classic answer was, "I feel nicht geschmack, da was ich sein ein bisschen geschmack." So that's ani meida. I saw.
That's Yossi, when he told it Nissen ich will nicht. Was war ich? Was war will?
Yeah. There was a guy. I read this once, an article. A guy went he went on one of these weekends with these guys, these men. They bond and they grunt and they wear skins and they climb mountains and they sweat. An executive. So on Monday in the office, he's telling his staff that this was a weekend of real sweating and real hard work and so on. So one of the people who worked in the building, like the construction guys, says, "Boss, if you want to sweat, just come and join us and work with us a little. You don't have to go pay thousands of dollars." So he says, "No, I don't have time for that. Weekends I have time." So he says, "Boss, if you sweat when you want to sweat, that ain't sweating at all." I'm a Schwitz, man will schwitzen. Man will nicht. So good. So Tayu doesn't know of this concept. V'nimtze d'masha sviris leinosnu mokim lazelazeh u'mitzadeh eris. So we see from this that with the sviris is like this. What the sviris don't give room for one another, don't leave space, that's inside the light, energy. Mashaloy mashpiyim mekabel zemzeh mitzadeh kelim. And when they're not mashpiyim mekabel, is mitzadeh kelim. Go a little. I can go a little while longer. It's a heavy dose of chassidus. Okay, ma'at tzarich lahav inyan hatikan. Huh?
Let's have some chassidus light.
Okay, no ticket.
Okay, we'll mix in a few stories. Ma'at tzarich lahav inyan hatikan delefia. Now moving that hatikan tzarich liz bebeziam. So now this whole thing sets the stage. Teyu, the dysfunctional characters can teach us about us functional people, right?
These two Chesronos of Teyu are the two miles of Tikkun.
Right. But it's more than that. It also teaches you the whole purpose of Tikkun and
that's when
the context.
That was the whole arichas of Teyu to explain to you Tikkun.
So that Tikkun tzarich liz bebeziam yon. Echad shasfiris yu neisnim mokum zelazeh. Number one, that Mizal Gem Pashat space for one another. Inyan hasavlonus,
tolerance.
Levad. What means levad? Savlanus levad.
First thing, you need tolerance.
Pashat tolerance. Here, tolerance. Sheyiyah sevlim zeh, that we should tolerate one another.
Meaning when you walk in the street and you nod, it's not because you're nodding. It's because you actually exist. That other person actually
Is it
exists.
taka?
The Rabbi said he wouldn't nod at the postman, remember that?
For that reason.
I don't think
It means he's
I think he needs
recognizing his existence.
what he represents, his shitta, his.
But he said hello to him.
It means that you recognize his
He
existence.
said hello to him, but he wouldn't
More than
nod.
that. If he has a certain shitta that's diametrically opposed to yours,
He wouldn't bow to it.
so do you have to
Not
tolerate
as
that?
Okay.
That's what he represents, not that he just exists.
Not as a, yeah,
Fabezu.
whatever.
Okay, so that's tolerating one another.
One is chesed.
That doesn't mean you have interaction with them.
Right. Tolerance.
Okay. So that's tolerating one another, which Torah doesn't allow for. So that's step one. And step two, because you can tolerate one another, but doesn't mean you want to interact with them, and you don't want to give, and they don't want to take. So in other words, can you say like this? Can you have number two without number one? No.
No, for sure not. For sure
So
not.
you can't be giving mashpiyah makabel and not tolerating the rest.
One is Kalim, one is
Well, no, in business you can have an interaction with somebody, give
That's
and
not real
take.
interaction. That's not real interaction. And don't forget something. There's a whole arichis how that tolerance comes about. He explained that you gotta have the concept of being merumim be'etzim. If you are merumim be'etzim, then nothing exists.
And therefore you could
Because
tolerate.
nothing exists, you can give
But
him
this
and
is the tachlis hashlemus. That's the highest.
He's explaining to you. There's a
Yeah,
whole
yeah. But
system.
let's take about. But 1 second. But even without remus atzmi, and you don't have. Let's say you don't also have the other narcissistic remus, right? You could have a concept of people tolerating each other, but not remus atzmi. You know, nashim
No,
karkenu.
that's not what he's talking about here.
I think he's talking about everything. Because remember, in the shade of Shlemus for sure is like what you're
Right.
saying. Okay, let's see. He's probably going to
Yeah.
speak about it.
No, but that's a
No, but let's speak about Nashim Kerkenu. And I have Rem Masatzmi, but
he's
we don't have
explaining here,
a yeshus to the point that you can't tolerate someone else. You can be mashpiyah makal. People, you have that all the time. Maybe because the Eidus Muatim, they're not because they don't have the.
You're saying Rosh Hashanah. He's explaining here tikkun. In order to understand.
Okay,
tikkun,
fine.
You have to understand number one, the concept of Remus.
I just wanted to see whether there could be number two without number one. But even pashtus it can be. If one person doesn't tolerate in constant, there's no sense. It's complete narcissism. Then the ashpah makabel is a fake.
Right.
But in business, people are that way. They use each
But it's
other.
fake. It's not real interaction. It's not real interaction.
But the creates tabus. There is a okay.
And then it explodes.
Okay,
Then it explodes.
Okay, so that's savlonus. V'zeu b'chinas iskalus v'sachdus. By the way, these words are critical.
Amiti.
Amiti. These words are critical. When we're going to make some summary of this, we're going to definitely use because terms are, because basically the essence of tikkun is iskalus and isachdus. Amiti. That's savlonus. The mebli asher yimtze reish v'seif.
You need the nos class on the safe.
Right.
Without the nos
These
without the
safe,
safe,
everything becomes one
Without
because
other
everything
relations
is.
doesn't make sense.
That's why it's not just iskalus. Iskalus is a symbiosis where everybody gives and takes, but not after they're all equal. Isachdus is that becomes one equal. Everyone's one equal part of the whole picture, the tapestry.
because they come from the shayrish, not class on the safe.
Huh?
It's like a shita of communism. Shita.
Communism is not as bad as
The
the
shita, the shita.
communists
I'm saying shita.
perverted communism.
No. The concept it would have been fine.
Exactly.
So I'm
It's
saying
a-
that's the guy, scholarless.
The problem with
We're all part of
communism,
one
as the
team.
Rebbe says, one individual became more abusive of the collective
Exactly.
thing. That's what happened.
The
If he had
communists,
bittul-
they abused it. But in essence,
So I'm telling you, scholars.
There is no such thing as proper communism, really, because it doesn't work, because you can't trust humans. In Indian, what Marx wanted would have been that if you had on top a bitteldika guy that didn't take one pruta for himself, and covered was not his thing, no power, no Stalin, then it is an Indian, but it's also not the Torah shita, by the way, because the Torah doesn't say there shouldn't be private property.
Our group, we certainly had one like that.
Like for example, the Rebbe, the Torah says you have private property. Besides Shevet Levi, people own things.
Right.
Communism, no one owns. It's all one collective pot. I went through the whole thing on this. It's not. Communism has an element in it that's very utopian, but it's not necessarily. Ultimately, it's capitalism and communism, and the spirit of communism. But practically, it has to be that there are individuals. There has to be
Well, by the way,
individuals.
that's what's happening.
Yeah.
because the world is going in that direction.
Right, because capitalism is imploding.
There was no in America. There was no such thing as
I wouldn't call it communism. Call it socialism is the right word.
Now, not only that, Medicaid, Medicare.
No, for sure, that's all socialist. Yeah, hardcore capitalism. There's almost doesn't.
There's no such thing under 50 years.
No unions.
Pure capitalism.
Look, in the beginning of the 20th century, when they had what they called the triangle thing, the fire. Right. There were no unions. Workers had no rights. Exactly. That's all from socialism. Exactly. But it's basically it's capitalism with a socialist heart. Essentially, the Taylor model of you must give tzedakah, but no one can force you to give. You have to force yourself.
No, you force you. Give all these matanis that they can force you to give it.
Okay, good. But I'm saying, but let's say in our society, the idea of self-imposed, all the tzedakahs and everything, that's the balance to capitalism.
Why are we giving the matanis because they don't have any property, they don't have any land. They're our representatives. So
right, exactly. That's exactly because there's
always an element in society that you have to give to.
No, for sure. Yeah, absolutely. Look, based on what he said here, everybody has to be giving and be receiving because that's negated to the scholars.
And they're giving that they're
yeah. No, for sure. Okay. A economic model based on this is very easy to apply. Zdem is obviously the ultimate isolationism, as you said, and selfishness. The Bechal is not interested in it. There's no civilization based on Zdem. It's me, and that's it. And that's why they themselves can't even coexist, because the same me goes within the same gufa. It doesn't. It's Sri Sakel. Huh? Yeah. Royal capitalism is maybe the ultimate opposite. Yeah.
Raw capitalism.
Shali shalach and shalach shali is very much like socialism, but it's okay. So anyway, so this is Kalus v'Sarvus Amiti Commission. V'Hine ina aleph sheyusev muzazeh ubchinas ha'er ubchinas. We spoke about the first thing is sev muzazeh is the level of air. Dain she'er yeh be'efen kazeh sheyen yitnu mokim zelazeh. Okay, that's the key here. That the energy that flows has to be in a way that gives room for one another. That in his bol el perik reish mem ches the zeshe b'shur zeh lo yehoyah hachesed. Next to Malcolm Lisvidus Aguru, Mitzad the air shape is take of air and dano emlech levad. But Teyu, the problem was Chesed didn't give room for Gvura because the light was the energy is so intense. It's all about itself. Me ruling. When Chesed feels Chesed, there's no room for anything. It cannot appreciate, be sensitive to, or understand the need for Gvura. And that's it. Ubetikun, here's now the opposite. So there's the contrast. And Tikkun Shabbat is miut v'chlishus. So the energy is not as intense. It's diminished and weaker.
By the way, weaker here doesn't mean a chisorn. Weaker, but not a chisorn.
Right, in the Chanami.
It's weaker, but it's not a...
The weakness he's going to say later comes with Tzad Bittul. It's not weaker as in a weaker person. In other words, a person who sits and lets another person speak, it's not because there's two types. There's a person who's a shmata, there's a wimp. There's a person mitzad teikif, faket.
Mitzad the bittul to the acharazah.
Yeah, so he gives room for the other. Shalzeh emer le'elam yehi odam rachka kanav al yeh kasher karas.
What do we need our to tell you if it's not a diminishment?
What was that?
Then what is it ever we need ours to tell you?
Ultimate time of Mashiach.
It's not a diminishment.
No. After the
tikkun.
After the tikkun.
What do we need ours to tell you?
Hold on. No. 1 second. Hold on a second.
He's talking times of Mashiach. He's talking times of Mashiach.
Before Mashiach.
But we're not talking about that.
No, even right now, let's say when he said to Shlomo Kun and others, the Torah became the No. It means like this. Remember, you're talking after Tikkun came around. We're not talking about Eretz Deteu as they were before Tikkun. You're talking once you have Tikkun, and your approach is one where you're building something. Then the Rebbe says that the Eretz of Tikkun should not just be Eretz Tikkun, you should have intensity of Eretz Deteu.
Harness the power of the
It's not a chiddush from the Rebbe, by the way. As I said before, it's Rav Tfuz B'Keich Sher. What does the Nefesh Abamis add to the Nefesh Elikis? An intensity and a passion, like a Baal Tshuva over a tzaddik. So that's why you need it, because
besides being
Atzilus gives the.
I'm just saying, Tikkun in itself.
Atzilus gives Atzilus.
There's other reasons Tikkun is weaker. Not only because of being bittul, that was my point.
The strength and the passion, that's the bottom line.
That's right. So there is something less about Tikkun besides being bittul.
Tikkun is lacking.
The bottom line is Tikkun provides.
He said it before, he just said it was only because of bittul. It's not only because of bittul.
No, because of bittul, it's diminished. It is diminished.
It's diminished?
But remember, you have to go even further. Remember, Chassidus says that we're not only going to get the light of Toyu, we're going to get the light before the Tzimtzum, which is a little more than.
Don't go there,
Obviously,
doctor.
that's a source of tikkun.
So the Tikkun provides the bittul, the harnessing, the kavana. Toyu is intensity. There is the concept of intensity. Like, for example, the opposite of Toyu, the ultra opposite of Toyu is mediocrity. But there's b'chal no passion. Tikkun doesn't have the passion of Toyu. So there's no question, there's a passion there.
Tikkun over here is that empathy?
No, Tikkun is Elam HaTikkun.
No, it
Tzilus.
says over here that you make yourself weaker. Is that empathy?
Not necessarily.
No?
So Tikkun is bittul. Well, any type of bittul.
No, miyut. It means you make the miyut, or the it's
The word for empathy is rachamim, or he's not using that expression, so I wouldn't use that here. Anyway, this is altahei. So the olam yehei adam rach kakana. A person should always be flexible, or soft, like a kana, like a reed. V'al yehei kosher should not be hard like another's, like a cedar tree. The eretz eitz kosher b'yeser. The others, which is a cedar, is a very hard wood. But we talked before about kavod lev. Kvad lev, it's connected. No, kavod kedusha. No. Eitz kosher b'yeser she'eni yechelim. Yeah, it is. It's kvad peh. It's a kvad. I'm sorry, kvad lev. Kavod lev of pare is like it's not flexible. So it's eitz kosher b'yeser she'eni yechelim the hatese l'shum tzad. You can't move a tree. You can't move a tree. You can't bend it in any direction. Oh, now we have a new personality type.
Oh, this one's gewaldig.
U'kamoy isha kosher b'midesov. And this is in the human psychological level. It's a person who's very hard with his midas. She'ein mechil la'hatese. You can't move him. He's stuck in his place. This is his midah, and that's it. Can't bend him.
Can't bend him.
He can move to be more extreme in his own position, but you can't bend him to your
Right.
But latese also means you can't convince him. Like, hatiyas hasechel, you can't convince him to change his in the yedua da midas. It's known the midas yesh b'em take of godly yesur mebesechel. Midas has much more intensity than sechel. Shari hasechel mishtan l'pam kach l'pam kach. A mind can change. Ideas like this, then it can change another way. Even though your seichel, after thought, is mechayiv be'efin kazeh, that you come to a conclusion that it's mechayiv, it compels you to a certain approach, a certain direction. Nevertheless, because it's seichel, you can think of another svara, another theory. That compels you, that comes to a different conclusion. The Sibus Hadover, why seichel this way? One of the reasons, because seichel breaks things down into details.
It becomes some details actually, and it forms a seichel.
Seichel bo b'schalkus pratim dafka.
It's made up of details.
It's made up of details.
Yeah.
There's no such thing as a seichel pashut, just a very amorphous, idea that doesn't have details, doesn't have breakdown. The parentheses, levad muskolos hadeshenis, except original axioms and assumptions. A muskulishin shehin bahanochis muchletes beseichel k'moy shachelik pochis ma'kel. An axiom is that a part is always less than the whole.
Oh, an example of an axiom.
Yeah, an example of an axiom. Yes. Or another one, shamarubu hu bal zovius, or that a square is made of sides. That's an axiom. Ukahai Gavna, for example. These are axioms. He's saying these axioms are not made of protim.
That's not seichel, that's a muskel rish.
Right. Even here, when you start bringing it to explain it, it also has details. Like you can explain why a square has sides. Because a square means it's made up of parts.
And the way you explain, it could be changed. The
One
muscle issue you can't change.
One second. Okay. The whole inyan sichli ba b'ribui pratim, because every inyan sichli comes in many details. V'zeh kol inyan seichel lefared kol davar. That's the whole inyan of a seichel, to break down an inyan, to break down an idea or a subject matter. She'zeh dafke hu teifus amasigas hamuskul. Like for example, when you look at something, you could look at a beautiful painting, you could look at a sunset, a child sees things. Doesn't mean you understand it. It means you see it. It's there. Seichel, by definition, is analysis. Analysis, by definition, is breaking it down. You're saying, let me break it into details. So seichel is essentially dissects and breaks things down into comprehending something. So comprehension means breaking it down. So like when you take a clock and you open it up and you start looking at all the things, that's a seichel. You're dissecting, you're analyzing, you're exploring. Just look at the clock, it's functioning. But you want to understand it, like science. The whole basis of science, understanding the laws that make something. So you have to break it down and say, okay, let's exactly analyze what's happening here. This is happening, that's it. What's a cause, what's an effect.
There comes non-Euclidean and the basic things we thought would fall apart.
But even quantum breaks it down, because they broke things down to a point where they come to, because even a quantum reality that's not necessarily defined, that doesn't mean there's no details. You may not be able to measure it, but that's not what he's saying. But the seichel is breaking it by rule.
You don't understand the axioms, that's the problem.
Oh no, okay, axioms is another story. But we're talking about the part
The axioms completely different than the way we look at it.
Okay. So So in order to be teifus umasig, in order to grasp and to comprehend, understand a muscle, you have to break it into details. That's also a musculish problem. Okay.
Good.
Okay.
Well, gesagt, the gelik ik volgens mij keur.
Okay, the bina who you said eish. The bina, which is havana, is you say eish. Shebteva eish lefared or lechalik leprotim. Lefarer. I need reading glasses. Yeah. That's the problem here. Lechalik leprotim. Shaydezeh tevus amasigis hamuskul. So bina, which is havana, not chokhmah, is eish. And we see eish. What does eish do? Eish, as opposed to mayim, eish does, it breaks things down. It breaks the elements down.
We weren't talking about
Lefarer.
We weren't even talking about chokhmah. We're talking about seichel and went straight to bina. It's not about chokhmah.
Havana. Yeah. No, I just point out that he said bina as you say there. That's all. Well, chal prash I said tevus maskas hamuskul. We do the chol tfisa dover hu aidei haksavis. It's also the square is ksavis. That's emotional.
Same word, ksavis.
Yeah. It's obvious. Yeah.
I'm sorry, it's obvious. Okay,
yeah. So chol tfisa, he's breaking it even more. Is aidei ksavis. It means it has to have corners. It means it has to have parameters. In other words, when someone, which is when you see sometimes you understand something and you can't really break it into levels and details.
Define it.
It means you don't fully comprehend it yet. That's why you can't write it or you can't speak it.
It's round. It's not square.
Yeah.
It's
Exactly.
Round. You can't grasp it.
Exactly.
You can't hold on to it.
You'll see that the tachlis of a real.
When people talk in circles, they're just talking a Chinese.
Yeah. No, you can see.
Talk in circles because they didn't get it.
Exactly.
When you get it, you're not talking in circles.
No, and also you can say it very short in one line because you got the sharp. It's sharp edged.
Sharp edge.
And you could say A, B, C, D. I remember I was studying geometry, which tremendously helped me later to Chazorah. I know it may sound weird, or in writing, because geometry and mathematics is very organized. You can never jump to C before B. Everything has to be, like sometimes you could hear sometimes someone say something was a smart guy, but he's like it's disorganized. He's like says point C, should have said it, and you don't really get it. The organization of machshava that it pushed A comes before B, before comes C, is made it because when listening to the Rebbe who was structuring something, he didn't know what he was going to say. That be able to assemble it and recreate it and organize was the key thing, to see it in a structure, because it wasn't just a general hergish you had. It had to be, and in geometry, Imamish, it comes down to that. You have to dissect everything in detail. It's like anyone. You'll see a lot of people who are very creative and idealistic, are not good at details. Then there's another person who takes it and bina, takes it and breaks. Okay, you want to get this done? We need to have A, B, C, D, E. You know, and count everything. A budget, usually a dealist will forget the utilities. A businessman won't. You know?
But in that group, there's bina
And they also count in, for theft or whatever it is, all the
loss factor.
Yeah, you have to have the. Seriously, there are people who are brilliant in that.
You make it, in general, it's true, but in machshava divrei ma'aser, a person can have bina in machshava, but not in ma'aser or not in divrei.
Okay.
Let's put it this way: but when you bring it into speaking or writing, I would argue necessarily that if a person can't bring it into dibur or ma'aser writing, lav davke machshava, they have it figured out so well.
It's true.
It forces you to bring it down.
Also true.
Yeah. Okay, so idea k'tzovis. Very good. This is also through being mechalik leprotim shadzin the korim ak'tzovis shazeu in hagbola. He's introducing all kinds of words here. First he said protim. Okay, now we got into k'tzovis, which is like, real edges, real very defined parameters, and that's hagbola, which is all, I guess, the tzimtzum miyat and chlishus of tikkun. Because you could think, that when you understand a seichel, there's the eir of seichel, there's the kelim of the seichel. The eir of the seichel doesn't have k'tzovis. I just get the inyan. It's like when you come to the aha moment, after you learned it. After the pratim, you come to a point where you just get it. Or two people know it and they both get it. That's not what he's talking about here. Here he's at a point where you have to break it into details. And for that you need a tzimtzum. That's a tzimtzum, because if not, you won't see the edges. If the eir is meir, I'll just give you an example. If I said to you, the Rebbe is atzmus naguf, or the Rebbe gezokt, we both know what we're talking about. So by the meir the eir, someone will say, what's a Rebbe? You have to start spelling out, the Rebbe is this, the Amoish Rebbe, and that's on the Shama. You know what I'm saying? In other words, the not just the hergish, the teichen kloli of the seichel really obliterates the details. But to really appreciate it, you have to know the details. A lot of people, especially that you grow up in yeshiva, you take for granted ideas, and someone says, "Can you break this down and tell me exactly what you're talking about?" And they can't do it because they really don't have havana in it. They have more kabbalah sale, or they're used to it, whatever you want to call it. Maybe it's not kabbalah, maybe just I'm used to it. So to me it's easy. But someone's explaining it to me, And this is in everything. For example, things we take for granted, a healthy relationship. Go explain it to someone who doesn't know what a relationship is. You can't just say a healthy relationship. They don't know what you're talking about. If we had examples of it in our lives, you have a dugma. But to break it down is I remember my father used to always say, "What's this?" My father could not stand the word psychology, but he was very smart. He understood psychology. Because by him it was like, you don't talk about healthy things.
You gotta be.
Yeah, you gotta be. They didn't understand this psychology. When I used to bring guys to my house, he used to say, he didn't know what to call them, so he would say, "So you're also part of the program." For him it was like because you don't have to.
Okay, once you start talking about it, it's not it.
Right, exactly. But that's the other side. But seichel be'etzem is befei. That's why seichel is so kalt, and maybe that's why seichel is taka almost hepech hamuna. But that's me because it doesn't. You want to break. I want to know the details. And once you get the details, you lose the spirit.
Yeah.
But the details are critical to understand. That's why it's so hard to combine the two. The key is to have the seichel and the...
You saw Friedman said that there was once a businessman, a very big business, came there for Yechidus. Just heard a story from this week. He walked to Yechidus and he spoke about every subject, unbelievable. Whatever I threw at him, he answered me like on the spot, in details and else. I hate when I'm pooping in my bubble with Zan. I'm learning that.
We have to. Let's go a few more lines. I have to conclude in a minute because I have to go. I'm going to conclude in 3 minutes.
His grandmother.
Okay.
Couldn't get it.
I'm gonna finish the inyan and then I have to go. I have to. He's waiting. This is a diet to the nafsh. We save all this. To have an abyss lashon hara.
You'll be here too. You'll sit right and listen to it also.
Okay, one second. I almost forgot what I was going to say.
I don't know what you were going to say.
It's about that guy that you don't want to talk about.
No, I know what I'm going to say. Okay. That I remember once Shalom Ben Hagadol, Shalom Ben Notik, he used to come every year Pesach. So he used to always visit me for some reason. So he comes to my office, I said, Shalom Aleichem, ihr gedenkt mir? I asked him, he says, Stussen vergesst mir keinmal nicht.
That's a good one.
I asked him, you remember me? He says, Narishkeiten, you always remember, foolish. Anyway, I saw that as a compliment. Okay, זה גם כן הדשא משחל, that seichel k'may shebechlolos adayin, ein aksovis nekarim. When the seichel is bechlolos, just in general, the edges, the sides, the parameters are not recognizable. V'arehem bilti mugbul adayin. And they're not yet defined, they're not yet mugbul. K'may shekosov b'makamacha be'in igulim v'yesher, like we said, learned somewhere else, but it says elsewhere, the igulim v'yesher, which is makif and pnimi. Igulim are the circles, yesher is the line. So like the igul agadol, the igulim, makif, yesher is kav. The igulim u k'may sh'aseichel b'derech klal. So igulim is when you get the general picture. Derech klal. The yesher k'may sh'ba b'schalkus pratim. And yesher is when the seichel comes into details.
A line is made up of dots.
Right, exactly. And a circle is not. A circle is infinite. A circle is infinite. Right. So a dot is a muskulishin, and a kav is what comes after. And every kav has to start with a dot. V'zeu kol inyan haseichel lefared kol dover beribui. This is the whole inyan of seichel lefared kol dover. This is, by the way, classic Rebbe Rashab, arichus haprotim.
You have to continue. Unbelievable.
Yes.
He's making up for the heartache that you get.
Yeah, don't worry. Only to prepare us for the next.
Back into it, right? Yeah. It was a geschmack.
Yeah, called over beriba. V'zel kol yin haseichel lefared called over beriba v'al dafka tefus u'masagin. And dafka through that, you grasp the inyan. So that's also in gay here. It's not just that you're bringing it into details. The details are necessary, absolutely necessary, in order to comprehend it.
But
so in other words, you're
losing something in the details.
That's what he's trying to point out. But ultimately, you're not losing. But in order to get to the place, it's like it's the chosek tzas. Remember, it's the chosek tzas. The chosek tzas is necessary to get.
Before we learned that every process, every type of thing, when we
you got to lose a little bit to get it.
Chachma is in every little stage. I learned it here. So a little bit of chachma at every stage.
Remember, this is ultimately leading to the idea of their savels. Because if you not appreciate details, you'll never tolerate another person.
That's midas.
Yeah.
Midas is one dot.
Right.
It's a nigul. Chachma, seichel, is a line, protein.
Look, Chassidus, you talk about that, Eres the Teo. Chassidus talks about Mashiach coming, it says, it'll say, Lo yirei v'lo yashchisu kol har kodshi, ki mol ha'aretz de'es Hashem kamayim le'yom echas. There'll be no more evil, no more destruction, because the world will be filled with knowledge. So Chassidus asks, Parsha Noach, why does Das have to do with destruction? We have a lot of people with Das, and they do destroy and kill each other. The answer is, it's not real Das. Das is Mechem the Gadlus. Das is Sevel Zayin Nochadeya. So once you could be Sevel, you're not destroying another. That's why in the Teva, God is Evu Kevis. The animals were able to coexist because it was a taste of Mashiach's times. So it's not also that it would be a miracle that a lamb will lie with the lion. It'll be because it's a place where everybody can tolerate each other. There's no longer the need, I'm me and you're you, and we shali shalach shalach. Even though it says in Yechezkel, Sodom will come back. No, but in the Mal Yusa. No, it says in Medrash, in this week's Parsha, it says, it says, Me'efa Yavim Mashiach, Mizdeim. As they state the Medrash. Because Rus, the grandmother of David, came from Bnei Slate. So Chassidus asks, why that's staying? Because that's exactly. He's having a moment. He's having a Sudei moment. The Malyusa. It says also the Nachash. The Nachash of the Nachash, the serpent, will be Nachash HaGadol, will become a Shamash Gadol. Mashiach, the Nachash that brought all the problems. The heartache came not from the Rebbe Rashab, it came from the Nachash, just for the record. The Nachash caused the heartache. Because if we didn't have the whole Chet Tzadas, we would understand this easy, and it would be hard for us to understand how to eat cake. That's the problem. Okay. So here we go. So Dafka Tekus. So where are we here? And just generally grasping it is not tfisa. This I could tell you 1,000 times over. When we would hear a Fabrenga from the Rebbe, and you thought you got it, you were dead. When you knew you didn't get it, that was good. Now you thought you got it, because, okay, I got it already, I don't have to worry about that. It was a tfisa close. You're not understanding the muscle. In other words, not because the tfisa close is a yediyah shitchis, even when it's not just yediyah shitchis. A little similar like the musculation, I guess.
Yeah.
So not because it's yediyah shitchis, even if it's not. Like, for example, in the foundations, you know the foundations, hanochas, the fundamental principles that are negayin in Yoni Sichum. K'she'ena masig hetiv, chayav adover, k'she'ena masig hetiv, chiv adover lamitasi, has a tfisa klolis. So it's not just shitchis. Even when you know when you know fundamental concepts, but you don't know them, right? You don't understand them with the chiv adover lamitasi. It's only tfisa klolis. V'avonos adover behechel sheyover become pratim. In other words, there's a tfisa klolis that's adiyah shitchis. You know, a person just read something quickly and they know it superficially. Even when you're talking not about superficial understanding, you really got to the yisod of it, but you didn't really break it down into details. That's not so good. That's tfisa klolis, and it's not. And to really understand, you have to have pratim. Uviyah shabab is chalkus pratim as a nesun mokim lishtanis mepnei is chalkus atzma shenechel keinyan lepratim. Now he's concluding. That's why. Remember, he began. Why seichel could change? Because it's made up of pratim. It came down to pratim, it leaves room for change because his chalkas asmi breaks into pratim. So since the havana of it is based on details, so if you find
something that's one entity.
Well, no, listen, but more than that. No, but if you hear another detail that contradicts your conclusions, you'll change. Because that's its pain. It's not based on it's not based on I seeing is believing. I saw it, no one can change my mind. Or midas with them. It's based on details. So if you give me more details, if you're a real bas seichel and you're not invested with midas in your conclusions, more details, it changes. Another detail has a different perspective.
Its makeup is details, therefore it
and the kavanah is to understand, not to be right. The kavanah is to analyze it and dissect it. And so if there's more okay. How far does it go with the seichel?
Till the bottom.
To the bottom.
3 lines to the bottom of shaking amidas. Okay, you can stop here maybe if you have to go.
Let's stop here. You guys are going to continue, right?